This Demon King waited around for the destined hero to show up for thousands of years. Thousands. After all that time, he did what any of us would do. He started binging human entertainment. The thing is, the dude watched so much that he went completely bonkers. Because now, instead of destroying the world, he's decided to play director. His goal? To create the perfect hero by matchmaking people, forging relationships, and pulling all the strings like he's writing the script for the most insane movie ever. But before we dive into this story, make sure to hit that subscribe button to help the channel grow. With that said, let's get into the story. It all starts in the peaceful Dominion continent. This place is dealing with the constant threat of the Demon King. A bunch of heroes pop up trying to take the beast down. In the end, good always wins, and peace makes a comeback. But the main guy leading this journey right now introduces himself simply as Justius, the hero. Facing off against the Demon King, he yells that he's going to put an end to this ancient evil. Mocking him, the villain asks what number this new intruder is. Justius warns him that so much arrogance is going to cause the monster's downfall. Then he readies his sword of judgment to wipe out the darkness. Watching it all unfold, the Demon King calls it impressive. With that, the young guy charges in with full force, yelling, "Here I come." He rushes in for the attack. The beast keeps thinking human determination is just wild, and decides to drop a comment about the nature of mortals. Grabbing RMC by the neck, he says they never change. Finally, he remembers that Justius is challenger number 326. Crad explains that he's been waiting for a worthy rival for 2,000 years. Revealing that he dodged the knockout punch, he tosses the hero to the ground. Now he offers him the chance to run away and live like a total coward, or step up to his duty and risk one last showdown. So the Demon King tells the kid to choose his own destiny. New warriors kept showing up, from mutants to high-tech soldiers. As time went by, all sorts of fighters made an appearance, but nothing really came of it. Because to this day, nobody has managed to beat Demon King Krat. Annoyed, Dominic complains that his master should have left right on time. Ranting, he says he caught him reading comic books instead of getting ready. Crad tries to explain the comic book reference, but his servant couldn't care less. Get this? The villain's biggest concern right now is human pop culture. Dominic yells at him to change clothes, but Craig just tells him to go be the king himself. Once again, the ruler accepts a challenge, but he looks super confused. Looking at the defeated Jiriel, he notes that the guy doesn't even have the strength for his final words. Whining on the floor, the guy says he never even wanted to be a hero. Revealing his dream of becoming a movie director, he startles Kraid with a loud scream, crying. The warrior shares his biggest wish before his time is up. He just wanted to watch the movie Look at Me through the crack in the door. Sobbing, he claims he wouldn't have become a hero if he knew he'd be taken out before seeing it. Weirded out by the super long title, Crad realizes the kid is already gone. Gazing at the castle, he realizes he doesn't even remember the fight itself. He reflects on how many got wiped out in a single hit, but something stuck in his mind. Exactly that weird title about the crack in the door. Admitting he's curious, he just can't shake the intensity of those words. At that point, he wonders if being so bored is what made him this interested. Calling for Dominic, he asks for a favor to pass the time. The underling quickly returns, and Kraid asks about that whole crack in the door thing. Confirming his research, the servant warns him that the answer is a total letdown. Understanding the explanation, Kraid notices just how much human tech has evolved. Dominic breaks it down, explaining that movies are projects made by a bunch of modern artists. Wrapping up the mystery, Kraid finds out that the movie premieres tomorrow. The assistant confirms it and mentions that dramas and anime have also become a massive craze. Kraid sighs, thinking it's such a waste that humans aren't focusing on their training. The Demon Lord drops the subject, thanking him for the report, and after a brief moment of silence, Kraid decides to go see the movie in person, sending his servant into a total panic. But the king is already heading out and tells Dominic to watch the castle. Worried sick, the underling wonders if he can still stop his master. Today, he deeply regrets not holding the boss back. A little while later, Dominic was totally caught off guard by a request. Kraid announced he was heading to the human world just to see some director's work. Shilling off a smartphone, he went on about how amazing wireless earbuds are. Right then, the Demon King demanded his assistant's undivided attention. He complained about a trash live-action adaptation, and basically became the biggest otaku in history. Dominic gets that sheer boredom caused this, but he still finds the human hobby super weird. Now he's thinking there's no way he can let today's schedule fall behind. Warning him that they need to hurry up, the servant gets cut off by Kraid. He flexes his status as the absolute being capable of wiping out the entire world. But the assistant doesn't even care and asks where he's going with this. After a super dramatic pause, Kraid straight up says he just doesn't feel like going out. and tries to sneak out of there. Meanwhile, the rookie Roko just finished cleaning up the place. Dominic calls her over, getting the little subordinate all hyped up. He lets her know he's heading out with the boss and asks her to keep an eye on the castle. While Roko agrees, Crad grumbles, begging for help so he doesn't have to go. The girl just wishes them luck, thinking their lives must be so tough. Soon enough, the two of them arrive in disguise at the Great Meridium Arena. Crad asks why they even need to watch these hero candidates train. The assistant just hands him the schedule of the day's matches. The king complains about the lack of a heads-up, but the servant says he would have totally bailed. Crad complains that all these newbie heroes are exactly the same. He suggests just watching the beginning and then sneaking off to the movie theater. Dominic asks how many seconds it would take for the king to wreck that entire arena. He says he knows his power and his 1,000-year search for a real rival. For that very reason, he guarantees this training session will hit different. He promises the boss will find something that actually catches his eye. Crad stays quiet for a few moments, and finally agrees to focus on the match that's about to start. The subordinate smiles and apologizes for being so harsh. He lets him know the tickets are already bought for right after the two fights, explaining that there are two key people they really need to watch today. Crad is shocked to hear there are two promising candidates, but he decides to trust his loyal subordinate's judgment. The start is announced and the first key player steps up on the right. The young swordswoman's eyes are practically sparkling. Somebody in the crowd yells for her to give it everything she's got. The girl looks super determined while the crowd goes absolutely wild. Her opponent, Guneld, mocks her for having to fight some kid from Eastwood. He warns her that he won't go easy with so many witnesses watching. The giant laughs out loud as he stares down little Riley. Crad notes that the big, bulky dudes usually get the short end of the stick in fiction. Before the start, a wizard announces he's going to cast a protective barrier. Guneld grumbles about the wizard's outfit while waiting for the signal. Riley watches in silence, predicting that this whole thing is going to be over way too fast. In the audience, the duo comments that using barriers has totally outclassed those old wooden swords. Meanwhile, the Demon King gets hyped seeing the action down in the arena. Riley draws her blade with absolute precision. As soon as the match kicks off, the mystical shield pops up. Guneld yells out in pain as the magic wraps around his body. The girl plans to wrap things up exactly as expected. Dominic also notices that the end is near. The giant bellows that she's dead meat. But the fight is pretty much already over. He raises his axe for a heavy-hitting attack, but his eyes widen in sudden absolute terror. The warrior freezes up completely right in the middle of his swing. Riley gets into position to deliver the final blow. He gets a horrifying vision of his own body getting sliced to ribbons. Panic takes over, and he screams his lungs out, sweating bullets and gasping for air. The big lug surrenders on the spot. The ref calls the match and declares Riley the grand winner. Totally clueless, the crowd starts wondering if the fight was rigged. Blown away, Crad asks who that surprising young girl is. The assistant explains that her name is Riley, and she's got raw, pure talent. Dominic notes that the girl actually managed to hook his master's interest. He breaks it down, saying she aimed right where the barrier dropped to force him to give up. He explains that the technique uses actual killer intent to fake a slash. Crad admits that even though he's seen plenty of prodigies, she shows a ton of promise. Curious, he asks about the other unusual candidate Dominic mentioned earlier. A new fighter steps onto the battlefield rocking a huge smile. While Trey enthusiastically introduces himself, Gregory complains about Guneld's loss. Gregory decides he's going to show off his superiority without making any rookie mistakes. The ref gives the green light, and Crad is super confused by what he's seeing. The opponent finds Troy's stance weird as he seems to be charging up a basic aura. He highly doubts the kid expects to land such an obvious hit. Ticked off by the supposed mockery, he decides to bust out his secret move. Then he cools off, figuring that dodging that attack will be a walk in the park. Crad explains that firing off an aura like that is total noob stuff. Gregory scoffs, thinking the newbie is just wasting his energy. Suddenly, the Demon King is stunned by what he sees. Troy unleashes a massive aura that charges forward relentlessly. Gregory takes the hit head-on and has no clue how the strike actually connected. The young MC claims he never underestimated or disrespected his opponent. The ref declares Troy the winner after the barriers are totally obliterated. The crowd is shocked by the sheer power, and Crad demands to know who the kid is. Dominic introduces Troy, the hero who literally defines the word hard work. Crad lets out a mocking laugh, leaving his assistant totally confused. The king explains that it wasn't just hard work but a genuine technique. He reveals that the young MC simply broke the standard formula for the move, and turned that flaw into his very own lethal weapon. Crad sees their potential to become rivals worthy of his time. Satisfied, he thinks making the trip out here was totally worth the effort. All of a sudden, something to the side catches his eye and surprises him. Poking his master, Dominic lets him know the fight is over and asks if he's still watching. They are both seen from afar in the stands, keeping an eye on the arena. Down below, Troy tries to chat up Riley, who just stares at him confused. Hyped up, the boy goes for a high five, which kind of startles the girl. Then Troy grabs her hand, making the girl blush super hard. Seeing this unfold, Kraid turns red too, totally not expecting this sudden romance. Overcome with emotion, he gets a nosebleed and calls out for his assistant. With zero rivals for 1,000 years, human culture became his only escape from utter boredom. Smiling, he asks about the two of them, and Dominic says they're just friends. Being a total veteran of 1,000-year-old storylines, Kraid laughs out loud hearing they're just friends, a total sucker for pure romance. The king says the situation looks way different. He breaks it down as the perfect cliché, a shy girl and an innocent guy. The narrator concludes that some first-class actors have finally shown up for him. Starting to transform, Kraid declares that a masterpiece is about to be born. Dominic panics and begs his lord to hold up a second. Ignoring his servant, Kraid hums a tune and starts brainstorming baby names for the couple. Suddenly, the king's expression shifts and a vein pops out on his forehead in pure annoyance. A hand touches Dominic's head, and he spins around spooked by the contact. A smiling dude thanks the servant for finding those kids. The subordinate freezes up, completely shocked by the unexpected company. He questions Kraid's plans, reminding him that he's always wanted a rival. Playing the teacher, Kraid praises the question from his confused student Dominic. The Demon King Theater kicks off, focusing on being the ultimate romantic wingman for the heroes. Step 2 will be the grand, thrilling final battle against the rival. After that, he plans to fake his defeat and run off to live it up. The final step is to sit back and watch the couple's happy life and wedding. Looking super proud, he asks what they think of his master plan to create new rivals like this. Dominic keeps his mouth shut, swallowing a bitter insult he was about to spit out. With no way to stop him, the servant just prays that no disaster goes down. The guy from earlier nods along, saying that this much talent doesn't just pop up out of nowhere. Looking dead serious, he states he's now totally sure of the Demon King's influence. The vibe gets heavy and the mystery dude grabs Dominic from behind. Terrified, the servant screams, wondering how he didn't even notice the guy was there. A gray-haired guy shows up and asks if that's his buddy. Dominic greets the person and wonders who Kraid's new female friend might be. The young girl questions Kraid's codename and suggests something a bit more badass. In his shadowy form, Kraid threatens to rip the girl's leg off. The guy smacks the king upside the head, calling him an idiot for losing his cool. Scolded for almost blowing his cover, Kraid shrinks back and apologizes. The girl asks if he's finally here to wipe out humanity. The man shuts the topic down, saying he doesn't talk to anyone who disgraced the heroes. He tells her to step up, take responsibility, and make things happen. Confused, the young girl processes his words in dead silence. Watching the man walk away, she asks him to be a bit more clear. Guessing the whole thing involves her master, she calls out to him in her head. Troy and his friends show up, and the master realizes there's something interesting. The camera focus shifts completely to the instructor's face. She thinks back on the accusation that she disgraced the name of all the heroes. Suddenly, she grabs her students by the head as they call her master. Changing the subject, the woman says she's craving some sweets. A wicked smirk pops up on her face, showing she's definitely up to something. She announces they're having shaved ice to celebrate, totally shocking the kids. Teasing them, she says whoever finishes last has to share their treat with Troy, making Riley turn beet red. Looking pretty pleased with herself, the master wraps up the scene with her arms around both of their shoulders. The focus shifts back to Kraid, who's getting ready to explain things. Dominic asks the boss if he can spill the beans on who that woman was. Kraid introduces Blee, the former hero who trained the MC duo. He says she showed up to take him down, and that he actually almost lost that fight. That reveal leaves his servant completely shook. The king reminisces about how even the fight was, and how he lost control because he was just too hyped. During the final strike, he saw his life flashed before his eyes, but the blade only grazed him. He claims she totally had him beat, but she twisted her sword at the last second, just giving him a scratch. Because she's human, she ended up in critical condition, and his disappointment quickly turned into sheer rage. The visual shows Kraid's demonic form ready to launch a massive counterattack, right after we see Blee's battered and pained face. He doesn't even remember why he spared her, but he guesses he just told her to go train some more. Mind blown, Dominic can barely process what he just heard. He realizes that if she had actually followed through with that strike, Kraid wouldn't even be standing there. The assistant gets super anxious about the future, predicting a massive disaster once those kids grow up. Crad cuts the heavy tension and says he's going to focus on the two new heroes. Still dizzy from the bombshell, the underling has no clue how to react. He figures his master is a really complex guy and that there's a deeper meaning behind everything he does. He decides to just quietly follow the king, happy to see him all fired up. Fast forward, Crad rocks a disguise to gift the new heroes some fruit. Troy says thanks for the pricey gift but asks if he happens to know their master. One of Crad's buddies suggests they put the stuff away before they start chatting. Super pumped, the kid points out how expensive the fruit they got must be. Riley thanks them for being so sweet and offers the guests something to drink, but the guy tagging along with the king rudely crashes the moment, annoyed. Blee recognizes him and demands to know what he's plotting by being there. Still in disguise, Crad asks her to play along and promises not to pull any funny business. She sighs and thanks him for still recognizing her as a warrior. Somewhere else, a demon complains about being in pain and wonders what the heck he's even doing there. Flashes of green hair mess with his head, and he wonders how he ended up locked away. The hero Reeve, looking pretty beat up, tries to report the presence of a master demon. The creature asks if the human is still underestimating him after what just went down. Popping up from behind, the monster lets the guy know his reaction time was way too slow. A massive sound of impact echoes all through the forest. Reeve is shown completely wrecked, tossed right against a tree trunk. The red demon remarks that the hero is pretty lucky to still be breathing. Soon after, a little tentacle creature pops up looking for some fun. Back in the present, Riley is holding a cup with a totally stunned look on her face. The spot is the house where Troy, Riley, and Blee all live together. The visit from Hythra, supposedly Blee's old buddy, just made things super awkward. Blee glares at the guest with a furious vibe and glowing eyes. Meanwhile, Crad is keeping up his disguise with this perfectly innocent smile. A silent battle of wills has been going down between those two for minutes now. Troy feels the crazy tension and thinks the house feels like it turned into a vacuum. Riley feels like she's slowly drowning under all that heavy pressure. Dominic compares the suffocating vibe to visiting a friend's house right when a family fight breaks out. Troy decides to step in and break that insanely heavy, awkward silence. He asks Hythra if he was really the master's coworker, since he had never heard about him. Hythra teases them, saying Blay is full of secrets and was always bragging about her students. Out of nowhere, Crad's buddy suggests that Troy should totally change up his haircut. The hero freezes and stammers, totally caught off guard by the question about his looks. The guy says his new hero title deserves a fresh new look to celebrate. He asks Riley for her take on it and she gets startled for being dragged into the chat. She replies that even though it's a bit messy, his hair doesn't really seem to need fixing. After thinking it over, she blushes and admits a change would actually be nice, shocking the poor guy even more. Somewhere else, a demon grumbles about how annoying a floating spirit is. Crad's friend pushes for him to get the cut right now, but Troy backs off since it's way too sudden. Right then, the guy holds out a stack of cash and tells him to keep the chain. In a rush, Troy says he'll be right back and darts out the door. The NC hopes he gets a good glow-up, while Hythra is just totally confused about the whole haircut thing. Perseus notes that separating the two actually worked, and that even heroes need a little cash. The Demon King questions the real reason for their visit, since they clearly didn't come to fight. Annoyed by the silence, an underling tells the MC to just spit out what he wants. The kid says he'll spill some secrets since he was welcomed so nicely, which just ticks the king off. He promises to tell them two things, and Perseus demands that he spit it out already. He reveals that step one was separating Troy from Hythra, and now comes the next part. The Demon King is totally stunned, not getting the point of that little stunt at all. An alert on the bracelet warns about a smart demon spotted in Sector GAP-7. Riley notices it's nearby and says she's gonna go check out the situation right away. The king's subordinate stops her, warning that Troy must have taken off first. With a sharp look, the woman keeps piecing together what really went down. She points at the table and points out that Troy completely forgot his hero ring when he left. The Demon King is absolutely boiling with rage, since walking around without the ring is totally illegal and punishable. Knowing Troy isn't dumb, he glares at the MC and realizes the scheme was actually pretty clever. The mastermind behind the trick feels the king's death glare and just freezes in terror. A flashback shows the kid asking for a hand to carry a super heavy basket, right after the MC played dumb to pull off his sneaky little trick. In the car, Troy gets a sudden chill and checks for his ring, getting super confused to see it right there. Dominic brushes off the idea of a cold and puts all his focus squarely on Riley. Holding the swiped ring, he admits the kid is seriously getting the hang of things. Riley says her goodbyes, ready for action, and heads straight for the spot of the distress call. The MC tells the hero to stay safe while the others get ready to tag along, but the kid blocks Dominic from leaving, which totally freaks the assistant out. The subordinate stands her ground and warns that absolutely no one is getting past her, period. Confused, the MC asks what she even means by setting up that roadblock. She stays quiet for a sec, rocking a really unfriendly look. Then she lets out a massive sigh, showing she is just so done with all this nonsense. After that, she takes a deep breath, getting ready to throw down for real. She unleashes a crazy, sinister vibe and orders everyone not to even think about crossing that line. The pressure is so intense that the MC and Dominic are scared out of their minds. The kid realizes that this isn't just your standard warning, it's a straight-up threat. The woman asks if he thought she was some kind of fool, and tells him to quit acting like an idiot. She orders him to get out of her sight right this second if he knows what's good for him. Seeing the place completely empty, she mutters that he finally learned how to listen. Breathing a sigh of relief, she wonders if she should have hit Troy up for some candy. Out in the woods, Dominic is coughing on the ground, while the MC asks if he's doing alright. Bawling his eyes out and looking totally wrecked, the lackey says he feels like he's going to pass out at any second. The kid praises him for his stamina and looks completely blown away. Apologizing, the main guy is totally amazed by how strong that former heroine really is. He tells Dominic to get back to work and focus on the latest updates about Riley. He gives his buddy permission to mentally curse him out exactly 10 times, tops. Lost in the woods, a tentacle demon begs to be let go so he can just go back home. He threatens a guy on the ground, demanding he drop some valuable item. He makes his threats looking super desperate, just like he did with all the others. In the background, the defeated guys whisper for the boss while the monster watches them. The monster complains, totally bummed out that his current opponent isn't a lady. Riley rushes in, reporting her position in Sector GAQ5 the second she spots the target. Noticing the girls show up, Tenta reacts with total surprise and is instantly interested. The heroine calls in for medical backup for the civilians and kicks off the showdown. Hyped up, the creature screams with joy that he finally gets to fight a girl. Right after that, he lunges into the attack using absolutely everything he's got. Riley gets into her stance and conjures a blob of black ink right in the palm of her hand. Swinging her brand new inkatana, she lands a super precise strike. The tentacles get sliced up, leaving the monster completely clueless about what just went down. Staring at the pieces on the ground, he wonders what kind of crazy technique that was. Resting her sword on her shoulder, Riley calls out his nerve for even trying to block that hit. Looking like an absolute boss, she demands to know who this creature is. Staring down her enemy with a serious look, she shows she is totally ready to brawl. From a distance, a spectator praises the heroine's aggressive fighting style. He reveals that he actually set up this whole stage just to test her progress. With a quick gesture, he challenges her to prove she has what it takes to be his rival. Tento flashes a creepy smile, getting pumped and ready for round 2. Riley stays completely dialed in while the spectator announces the official start of the match. The peaceful vibe of the forest is suddenly shattered by the fight. The ground cracks from a massive impact, kicking up a huge cloud of dust. Tento chases after the girl, asking why she's running away if she came here to catch him. Silent and focused, the heroine grips her sword without letting anything distract her. The monster keeps pushing, begging to hear her voice while chasing her down. As she dodges, he fakes a whine, pretending to be super hurt. Taunting her, he asks if she's going to give him the silent treatment much longer. Opening a portal, he threatens to make her scream her lungs out before she drops. The monster goes on a fierce attack, swinging one of his massive tentacles. Not even breaking a sweat, Riley activates her special ink domain technique. Blocking the hit, she splashes ink all over the place. Tento makes fun of her sword skills, saying her slashes are basically harmless. He completely misses the fact that the ink is soaking into all the trees around them. Pretty soon, a deep slash appears in one of the nearby tree trunks. A glowing red eye opens up inside the crack of the tree, keeping a close watch on the demon. The MC watches, totally impressed, and hypes up the skills she's leveled up over the last 3 years. Chilling with popcorn and 3D glasses, he asks Dominic what he thinks. His buddy just grumbles and cries while listening to the live play-by-play. Back on the battlefield, Tintenta was looking completely lost and confused. Looking around, he realizes he got way too distracted checking out the cutie. Riley calls in her new location and announces she's going to wrap up the fight right there. The monster notices she makes up for her lack of raw power with insane speed and dodging. He figures out she's a total pro and complains about being ignored just because she's on the radio. Suddenly, her mentioning the bracelet sets off alarm bells in the creature's head. The demon realizes a top-tier fighter like her wouldn't just show up for no reason. Pointing a tentacle at her, he asks if the girl is an official heroine. Getting all hyped up, Tento says he's going to finish her off just like he did the other bracelet owners. Riley stays totally silent, just listening to her rival's empty threats. Just as he starts telling some story, she cuts him off and asks why he's stalling so much. Watching from afar, the MC yells to skip the cutscene, but Dominic reminds him it's a real-time live stream. One of the spectators jokes that the demon talks way too much. Totally confused by the comment, Tento asks what the heck that's supposed to mean. Riley explains that he's just buying time while getting himself all tangled up in the trees. The camera pans to his tangled up limbs, and she sarcastically asks if he needs some help. Flexing her confidence, the heroine claims there is zero chance she loses to him in his current state. Calling the monster out, she dares him to unleash all the power he's been hiding. The creature practically chokes on his own surprise at the girl's pure audacity and taunts. He quickly busts out laughing, joined by the MC who's still watching from a distance. Tento apologizes for cracking up and admits he totally fell for the cutie's little strategy. Getting dead serious, he praises her actual game plan and stops messing around with the fight. The villain grabs Riley's leg and yells, "Gotcha," but she doesn't even flinch. Laughing it off, he claims his limbs don't actually get tangled and mocks her for failing. But then, the demon pauses for a second to really think about the situation. He wonders why he's feeling so happy and warns her he is definitely not letting go of her leg. He tells the girl to hold still and take her defeat, but decides to grant her one final wish. Remembering her taunt, he decides to unleash all the raw power he's got stored up. A massive wave of tentacles charges forward as he dares Riley to try and block it. One of the viewers comments that this aggro attitude really isn't the heroine's usual style. Thinking the trash talk felt kind of random, he asks Dominic for his expert take. His sidekick agrees it's totally out of character for her, but says he expected exactly this from Tento. He keeps a close eye on the monster's moves to wrap up his theory. He figures that, even though the plan seems way too basic for a girl of her level, Tento's IQ is low enough that he'd swallow the bait hook, line, and sinker. Out of nowhere, she slices through his grip, leaving the monster absolutely clueless. He tries to process the trick, mind blown that she just sliced through what was supposed to be impenetrable. It finally clicks in his head, and he realizes the answer was staring him right in the face. It was a big brain play that Tento's massive ego stopped him from seeing in time. The truth is, she always had more than enough power to slice and dice him completely. Riley just baited him so he'd dump all his power into one single spot. She activates her Ink Kingdom, and the technique sweeps across the entire battlefield. Taking total control of the area, the heroine pushes forward, slicing through everything in her path. With a totally cold glare, she stares down her opponent, ready to deliver the final knockout blow. The narration drops some lore, explaining that Tento's confidence actually had a technical reason behind it. Turns out, he can harden his tentacles for really short bursts of time. On top of that, his limbs can feel the force of an impact to scan his opponent's power level. After Riley whiffed her first few strikes, he totally bought into the idea that she was harmless. Her whole plan with the trees just fed right into his bogus theory. But boy was he wrong, and now he watches her push forward in absolute disbelief. In the blink of an eye, the girl charges in, wrecking every single obstacle in her way. Panicking, Tento calls her a coward for hiding her real power level. He desperately tries to keep his cool so he can figure out a way to save his own skin. Even up close, he thinks about fighting back. But Riley preps another massive attack. He drops the idea instantly, realizing he can barely brace himself for what's coming. His eyes go wide in pure panic seeing the girl's game-ending approach. Sensing it's game over, Tento decides to trust his gut for a blind block. Focused on reacting, he yells out that he finally figured out her game plan. His instincts pinpoint the exact target, the right side of his own neck. With that prediction, he braces for impact, totally ready to defend. But Riley pops up already giving her report stating her name and wrapping up the mission. She says there are no new details and she'll wait for the cleanup crew right there. Only then do we see Tento on the ground, with a massive blast mark right in the middle of his chest. She finishes with target fully subdued, while the screen confirms her official win. From afar, Crad watches the replay of the fight looking super thoughtful. Hyped up, he says it was a fun watch and gives her performance a 9.8. Dominic thought the fight was lame and asks why the 0.2 deduction. Crad complains about the lack of caramel popcorn and tells his minion to do better next time. Annoyed, Dominic thinks about his humiliating new gig as the popcorn guy. He takes a deep breath trying to chill out, accepting he's the weakest link there. While snacking, Crad gets jump-scared out of nowhere by an unexpected presence. An unknown voice starts talking to him without showing a face. The MC pops in smiling and tells Dominic not to cut the strain just yet. Back on the battlefield, Riley stares at her own hand feeling like something's off. Worried, she wonders if her gut feeling is actually right. Just then, the MC shows up offering chocolate and asks if she's worn out. Surprised, she notices her master looks beat and asks if he's feeling okay. He stretches and mentions that her lifestyle has been pretty exhausting lately, totally washed. The girl takes the candy and just starts eating it casually. The MC freaks out and yells at her to stop, making Riley super embarrassed. Giving a wicked look, he asks if she didn't taste the poison in the snack. The two face off in a moment of pure dramatic tension. Riley stammers that she wouldn't fall for that, but the pop-up screen proves she totally did. With a determined look, she seems to have a sudden lightbulb moment about what she wants. The MC tells her she doesn't trust her own natural talent and sells herself short. He asks if Troy's influence rubbed off on her, leaving the girl completely shook. Flashing a little smirk, he keeps dropping wisdom on his student. He suggests she just chill and use straightforward tactics against monsters or people. She thinks back to the fight, blown away that Tento fell for such a basic trick. Confused, she asks if her master wanted quick strikes and what the perfect pattern would be. From a distance, the MC asks if Dominic can control Tento's defeated tentacles. The assistant says yes, and our guy tells him to shoot whenever he's ready. Instantly, a tentacle is fired off like a high-speed projectile. The attack whizzes right past Riley, who just watches without even flinching. Deep in thought, she admits she still hasn't grasped the core of her master's lesson. She figures maybe Troy can help her figure out what the master actually meant. But the MC cuts her off, saying he's got something important to bring up about the dude. He drops the bomb, telling her to find another guy instead of crushing on Troy. Fired up, Riley starts yelling, asking what his deal is with her friend. She claps back that she won't stand for any Troy slander, not even from the master. The MC acts all dramatic, but she shoots back saying Troy is handsome, cool, and literally perfect. Seeing her raging, he apologizes and gives her a hug to cool her down. Getting back on track, he points out that even though clueless Troy might miss it, one day, if she's ever in trouble, something special might just happen. He asks if Troy would swoop in like Prince Charming to save her. In the simulation, Riley pops up, surrounded by tentacles in a really tight spot. Suddenly, Troy appears, blocking the attack and shouting her name. The girl is left feeling vulnerable and totally blushes. Freaking out, the guy grabs her by the shoulders and asks if she's alright. The MC is just watching the whole thing play out from afar. He busts out laughing and pumps his fist in the air, hyped that his plan worked. Munching on a skewer, our guy wonders if the demon in the sector was taken down. He blew it off because it was far, decides to check, and then immediately gives up because he's feeling lazy. When he finds out the sector is close to home, he freezes because the ring never warned him. He looks down at his hand and realizes in total disbelief that the accessory is gone. The copy Dominic made was designed to just vanish after a while. Panicking, he runs around screaming for the portal to just spawn right there. He peeks through a crack, terrified of what he might find on the other side. Surprised, he sees that Riley is already there, looking super worried. Relieved, he figures she took care of business and the monster's already defeated. But the body on the ground twitches near our hero, and she doesn't even notice the danger. The thing gets up, and the MC goes into shock, seeing it's not a demon at all. It's a dead ringer of himself, rocking ink powers. He totally drops his snack on the floor. The doppelganger rushes at Riley wielding a black ink blade. He attacks super fast, and the MC screams her name, totally helpless to jump in. The hit strikes the tentacle dead on, sending her flying from the impact. She lands looking spooked while the cone regains his balance. Watching the scene, far away, our popcorn fan feels the flavor suddenly change to caramel. Both are shown from behind, with the guy totally confused by the flavor switch. He shakes Dominic and demands to know what's up with that weird sensation. The minion asks why the heck the popcorn tastes like caramel now. The Lord flips out, saying Troy's rescue was sweet like a romance movie. Pulling a creepy face, the fanboy asks who directed that scene, while the minion just brushes it off. Dominic replies that he just loves this stuff, clearly showing he's mentally drained. A few days later, Troy wraps up his story and the MC finally gets what happened. But our guy asks why he's dragging up old news right now. Troy is on his knees sweating bullets, with Riley standing behind him looking super anxious. He says he saw the master looking upset and decided to come clean about the ring screw-up. The MC looks at the accessory and pieces together the reason for all this drama. Riley stresses out while Troy is ready to take whatever punishment for his slip-up. Then the MC calls the guy over and makes a comment about his look. Being super dramatic, the hero offers his own head up like a sorry sinner. but he just gets a bonk on the head from a golden halo and whines about the pain. The master asks why his hair looks exactly the same if he was supposed to get a cut. Confused, Troy says he spent Hyther's money on snacks along the way. The MC gives his student some head pats and tells him it's all good. He tells him to stay safe, and Riley congratulates her buddy for surviving the ordeal. She thinks to herself that this is the very first time Troy messed up and got off scot-free. She figures it's not the guy's fault anyway since he never goes anywhere without the ring. Plus, a demon popped up in a spot where they almost never show up. Our guy decides that this whole mess is totally the Demon King's fault. With a furious glare, he stares the man down and asks if he's done with the job yet. Kuro calls off the break and tells Troy it's time to get back to training. The MC claps back saying he had already given him a heads up earlier. Kuro sarcastically acknowledges the warning, but just laughs and goes, "So what?" Cut to a flashback where Kuro pops up all hyped, claiming to be an old buddy of the master. Troy is totally blown away since he's never heard a peep about this supposed close friend. The MC grumbles that even he didn't know he had that many buddies lying around. Hyther tries to shoo the gatecrasher away so the boys can catch their breath, but Kuro totally ignores him. Kuro decides to throw in some special training, and Hyther tries to put a stop to it. Troy gets all hyped up, hoping this new technique will finally fix his sluggish moves. Flashing a smirk, Kuro promises that this workout will totally do the trick. He offers to be the guide to turn this big bear into an actual human. That wild pitch has Troy sold right on the spot. With no other choice, the MC and Riley tag along for the training session until we snap back to the present. Our main guy just lets out a heavy sigh. The pink-haired girl pokes fun at the master's daily reading habit. Annoyed, the MC asks why Kuro keeps hounding his students like that. Mid-attack on Troy, Kuro warns him that he might switch up his tactics at any given second. He hits the brakes out of nowhere and calls out the kid's name. Spooked, Troy answers right away while tightly gripping his staff. Kuro stops everything to drop a pop quiz-style evaluation right then and there. The result leaves Troy absolutely stunned, impossible to grade. Kuro reminds him that he told the kid to go all out and fight without holding back. He explains that Troy's body just freezes up right before landing any real hits. The MC notices his pupil is super hesitant about roughing up people he actually knows. Kuro bums out over the fact that demons rarely show up around there for a proper test. Sweating bullets, our main guy instantly figures out where this is going. All nervous, he backs up the fact that monsters don't usually hang around the village. Riley totally falls for the bait and brings up the demon that showed up recently. Kuro suggests they patrol the spot the girl mentioned, just to be safe. Speechless, the MC mentally facepalms at this completely forced coincidence. Before you know it, the crew is hiding out in the bushes, scoping out the area. And wouldn't you know it, a demon actually shows up, looking completely lost. The monster spots the humans and starts sweating buckets out of pure panic. Named Rubinetta, the beast realizes it just wandered straight into human territory. Kuro suggests Troy take on the creature solo as a pop quiz. Riley gets spooked, but the narration highlights how great this is for combat experience. Flashing an evil grin, Kuro thinks to himself that this duo has some serious potential. He claims those two never fail to meet his expectations. Troy takes a deep breath and grips his staff, looking absolutely locked in. Cut to a flashback, where Rubinetta questions why other demons are being sacrificed. The Demon King corrects him, saying it's only the troublemakers like Tento who get the boot. He explains that Tento is a sadistic coward who just needs to be taken out of the picture. Rubinetta points out that the king is one seriously well-informed ruler. The big boss confirms Tento is going up against Riley just to put on a good show. He goes quiet for a second to think about what to do with Troy. Then he admits that picking the right match up for the kid is a pretty tough call. He wonders if our hero could even handle going toe-to-toe with the pink-haired girl. The brawl kicks off in the Ink Realm with Troy charging straight at his opponent. The kid unleashes a lightning-fast strike to slice the pink enemy, totally caught off guard by the speed. The demon's eyes pop out of his head, but he manages to block the hit and whines that Troy attacked him without a heads-up. Taunting him, he points out that the kid's hands are shaking like a leaf. Dead serious, Troy glares at the demon who just calls him a country bumpkin. Kuro explains that the scattered strike technique uses ink as pure energy. Riley finds it super weird that he knows so much, but Kuro says Troy spilled all the beans during practice. In a flashback, the kid admits he doesn't have her natural talent, which makes her furious. She thinks about how they stopped training together and realizes she completely forgot one little detail. Watching the fight, she realizes Troy looks way more awesome when he's being serious. Riley spots how much her friend has leveled up as she remembers the moves he pulled on Kuro. Blushing hard, the girl feels like her heart is going to explode just thinking about it. The narrator points out that someone else is also stressing out, but for a way worse reason. Kuro shows up, announcing he threw together a special event to really immerse the actors. A bystander squints at the pink demon, getting major déjà vu. After checking a wanted poster, he confirms the villain is wanted for snatching kids. Rolling his eyes, Hythra figures that last claim is just made-up nonsense. The local decides they can't let this creep get away and runs off to warn Troy. Right then, our hero hits pause on the fight when he hears Riley calling out to him. Ticked off, the demon whines that Troy jumped him and is now just mumbling to himself. Riley yells out that she'll show zero mercy because this guy has crossed way too many lines. Tento brags about being a big shot in the demon realm and asks if Troy has lost his mind, giving off a super dark aura. Troy asks if he's the one who's been snatching those kids. Looking confused, the pink dude explains he's stuck in his own realm and doesn't do stuff like that. He insists they've got the wrong guy, sarcastically adding that he doesn't abduct anybody. Flashing a creepy grin, he admits he tried snacking on some kids once but didn't really like the taste. Troy's expression goes deadpan, boiling over with silent rage. The demon cuts the chatter and announces he's going on the offensive now. He readies his fist, decked out in a gauntlet with a pink ribbon, and he throws a massive punch right at the kid. The impact sets off a huge blast on the ground, kicking up a massive cloud of dust. Watching from a distance, Riley gets rattled, realizing this guy is way stronger than they thought. Kuro notices it's going to be a tough challenge but decides to sit back and not interfere. He knows darn well the kid wouldn't want anyone jumping in to help right now anyway. Deep down, the master is 100% sure that Troy is going to take the win. Out of nowhere, Troy blocks the hit using his Inkwave technique. Kuro recognizes the scattered stroke, a move used to build a solid defense. He grins, seeing that Troy totally copied Riley's spot-on move. Caught off guard by the shield, the demon realizes the kid has a bunch of tricks up his sleeve. All of a sudden, the villain goes into total shock. Looking at the ink trail, he notices our hero has completely vanished. He figures out that Troy blocked his line of sight just to find an opening to attack. But what he doesn't realize is that the kid is already leaping right over his head. The kid yells out as he dive bombs in for a heavy aerial strike. The pink dude claims Troy's reaction time is way too slow and that the attack won't do squat. He quickly spins around to set up a counterattack and fires off the heavy-hitting sword aura slash right at our hero. Back on the ground, Troy stares down the incoming attack, looking totally fearless. The demon laughs off the attempt, calling the kid a thick-skulled idiot. The camera pans out to show the huge gap between the onlookers and the actual brawl. Our main guy notices that Troy is actually struggling for real in this fight. The Demon King finally remembers the villain's name, Rubinetta. Kuro notices the rival crystallizing his body and worries he totally misjudged the balance of this fight. Laughing his head off, the pink demon tells Troy to keep swinging until his own hands hurt. RMC reflects that Rubinetta was the best choice, but worries he might have pushed Troy way too hard. Checking out the kid's energy flow, he doesn't see any signs of the situation turning around. He figures this absolute poster boy for hard work will give it his all until his hands just give out from exhaustion. Suddenly, Kuro notices something super weird and the demon gets totally confused too. Absolutely shocked, the villain watches his own crystal chest get pierced right through by Troy's blade. In total disbelief, Kuro wonders if there was some crazy chemical trick or outside help involved. An intense glow shines from the impact, proving that something definitely just shifted in this fight. The sheer force of the hit expands and shatters that mystical defense even more. Rubinetta feels the real impact and starts panicking when he realizes the hits are getting heavier and heavier. Freaking out, he realizes Troy is breaking through his resistance using nothing but pure, raw muscle. Looking completely cold, Troy decides his only option is to absolutely smash every single crystal that pops up in his way. The demon freezes up when he catches that relentless determination in the young hero's eyes. Gripping his weapon tight, Troy declares he'll keep trying as many times as it takes. In a flashback, Kuro asks where little Troy sneaks off to every single night. At 12 years old, the kid gets spooked and asks how his master found out. Kuro brings up the early morning outings and the noise, but Troy just says he didn't want to bother Riley. The master asks if he's feeling left behind by his classmate's special talent. Looking super embarrassed and staring at the ground, the little hero admits that's exactly how he feels. Kuro comforts his student, telling him that Riley is just built different and that he's actually doing a great job. Caught off guard by the super rare compliment, the kid's eyes go wide as he looks up at his master. His mentor assures him he's super dedicated and tells him not to stress over this all by himself. Troy agrees to head back home, but asks to break just one more thing before they go, complaining about the cold. Kuro freezes in his tracks when he sees what the kid is planning to ret. Standing right in front of a massive boulder, Troy confirms that's his target for practice. Mind blown, the master realizes this is already the fourth giant rock the kid has smashed to pieces. The young guy explains he just kept hitting it until the obstacle finally gave way. Kuro is totally speechless, with a giant sweat drop sliding down his face. He calls the kid a total meathead, but Troy insists his energy flow is perfectly aligned. Raising his sword high, he yells and swings with absolutely everything he's got. Cutting back to the present, Troy shatters Rubinetta's armor to pieces with an epic attack. The impact sends the demon spinning through the air while crystals go flying everywhere. Rubinetta begs for mercy and is completely bewildered by the kid's endless stamina. Looking dead serious, Troy stares down his opponent without showing a single sign of being physically tired. With a smile on his face, the hero feels like his hits are finally packing that classic punch again. Seeing that a loss is right around the corner, the villain plans to just spam his defense regeneration forever. Rocking an intense aura, he promises to hold out until his opponent's blade gets completely dull. But Troy strikes again and totally wrecks the monster's regeneration for a second time. Knocked down and all busted up, Rubinetta stammers out a plea to just call off the fight. The narration explains that masters rid internal energy to predict what someone is going to do next. Kuro remembers how he could read the strategy behind Riley's moves a good 3 years ago. But his eyes light up when he notices that Troy's flow is an absolute mystery. In another flashback, a warrior challenges the Demon King Krod, screaming about glory. The invader promises a light attack, just trying to flex his supposed superiority. Kuro could see the guy's energy was super tense and that he was actually about to go all out. To the king, that whole act was honestly just pathetic to watch. Today, Kuro admits he can easily read the energy flows of even Riley and Bleth. He stays totally intrigued because he just can't crack the code on the energy coming off Troy. Heisra calls out to him, looking spooked, and he apologizes for zoning out so hard. Kuro points toward the battlefield and lets her know the fight is officially over. Rubinetta coughs and desperately begs for a chance to be heard. Defeated and down on his knees, he swears he'll never set foot in the human world again. Troy just glares at him with disgust. Doubting a demon who supposedly went after little kids, Hydra notices the monster actually feels super wronged by these false accusations. Troy says the rumor doesn't change what's going to happen to the villain in the end. He explains his job as a hero is to take down demons as fast as humanly possible. In full panic mode, Rubinetta tries to stall for time so his crystals can regenerate. He screams for a chance to explain himself, which totally catches the guy off guard. The demon begs to clear his name before he gets officially taken out. Our MC stares down his enemy with a super dark and intense look on his face. From a distance, Kuro catches onto something and realizes the moment has finally come. He kicks himself for focusing so much on the energy that he completely missed what the monster said. Troy just stands there in absolute silence for a few seconds. Far away from there, Riley also shows a totally surprised reaction. She blushes when she sees Troy calling, and Hydra thinks the whole vibe is kinda weird. Over the radio, the young guy asks if the target has any other defining features besides the pink hair. Riley gets annoyed by the question, but Troy promises he won't let the guy slip away. The girl gets what he's asking and says she'll check the data right now. She looks over the demon sighting notice paper she has in her hands. She starts reading out loud the features listed on the document. The detail about having curly hair leaves Rubinetta in absolute shock. Looking far from thrilled, Troy grumbles about the whole situation. He thanks his partner for the help and cuts the comms. Looking pretty annoyed, the hero mutters a grumpy little comment under his breath. Rubinetta sobs and apologizes one more time to the guy who just bested him. Bawling his eyes out, he begs to know if his curls look natural or totally ruined. The scene cuts to a super peaceful forest under a clear blue sky. All of a sudden, a massive explosion kicks up a huge cloud of dust through the trees. Covered in ink, Troy reports the total takedown of the smart demon. The camera zooms in on Rubinetta's stained, defeated body. The kid wraps up his report and the system makes his victory official. Watching from a distance, Riley and Hydra break down how everything played out. Riley breathes a huge sigh of relief, but Hydra finds the crazy high number of monsters super sketchy. Kuro watches the whole thing go down with a dead serious look and glowing red eyes. He agrees the whole situation is way out of the ordinary, which just makes his teammate nervous. Kuro spots someone in the distance and confirms the silhouette totally looks like Bleth. Master Bleth pops up on the horizon, walking right toward them. Tento makes fun of her rage, laughing about how she actually came back after the warning. He taunts her, saying she should have finished him off when she was still in good shape. Listens to all of it in total silence with her hair covering her face. deep down she admits to herself that the villain's trash talk is actually spot on. Rocking a super dark aura, she wonders to herself how she could possibly beat him now. Tento feels the pressure and complains about the hero's empty hostility. He asks if he only stopped him to try and strike up some kind of deal. In a flashback, this creepy guy tells her to let him go so she doesn't end up getting badly hurt. Bluff holds onto him tight and warns him she'll take him down if he makes any sudden moves. The guy asks if he counts as a hostage, but she shuts down his hopes real quick. She explains that his boss would have already stepped in if he actually cared about saving his underlings. She tells the henchman he's important and asks if he finally gets his limits. Totally freaked out, the guy starts breaking a cold sweat. Kuro watches the whole thing unfold from behind in the present day. He says he'll keep that info in his back pocket while Bluff gives Tento a dead serious glare. All of a sudden, the pink demon gets slammed hard into the dirt. Realizing he's not getting off the hook, he bails, yelling that he's heading back to the castle. Bluff stands there, completely chill but surrounded by this crazy flaming aura. Kuro turns around and calls out the ex-hero's name. He points out that she's definitely not acting like your average goody two-shoes hero. Scoffing, she laughs and claps back that she never even wanted that title in the first place. Right after that, she literally just starts floating away. Kuro watches her take off, just thinking about how insanely annoying she can be. The scene cuts to the massive demon castle sitting right under a deep red sky. Somebody is just chilling on the steps of this super long staircase. It's Roko, complaining that everyone is taking forever to show up. Out of nowhere, she gets startled by this weird noise close by. Dominic comes sprinting in, totally out of breath and looking wiped out. He drops to one knee in front of the Demon King and announces he's back. Crad gives him props for the hustle and tells the guy to go get some rest. Roko runs over to Dominic all worried, but he brushes it off saying he's fine and keeps his eyes on his master. The servant apologizes for totally losing his cool during the mission. The big boss calms him down and asks if he gets why he's not in trouble. Flashing a smile, he tells him that none of this was Dominic's fault. Anyway, he tells the kid to go take a breather and genuinely praises Rocco for keeping guard. You can tell he's not capping at all. And there's zero anger in his voice. Snapping back to his real body, Tencho is super ticked off that he got tagged by a totally broken dude. He has to admit that the way Bluff students are leveling up in combat is just insane. He realizes that throwing weak baddies at them now would actually just ruin their training. He figures that if he wants to get his romance and find a rival actually worth his time, he's gonna need players who are actually on the same level as these kids. The scene cuts to dystopian European-style tavern over in another town. Sitting at the bar, Bluff asks the owner to hit her with the strongest drink they've got. The owners are totally mind-blown when they realize who just walked in. Silk screams her friend's name, totally hyped because she hasn't heard from her in forever. She gives her a massive hug, just stoked to see she's okay after completely ghosting them. Hook flexes that he's actually upgraded his tried fried rice recipe. He promises to whip up a VIP plate as she came looking for a bite. Bluff looks completely unimpressed, while Silk just straight up ignores her husband's height. The ex-hero asks for a light omelet instead, making Hook pretty salty about her order. She roasts him for his greasy food, and the two of them start bickering like crazy. Changing the subject, Silk asks how Troy and Riley have been doing lately. Bluff swears that despite all the crazy stuff, the kids are safe and doing all right. Hook mutters that they probably look malnourished since they aren't eating his cooking. Silk calls him a total man-child, saying the only thing that grew up was his height. Smirking, Bluff tells him he should just see how much they've leveled up with his own eyes. Hook is super confused, totally missing the point of her weird invitation. Right on cue, Troy's voice echoes through the tavern yelling that he found their master. The dynamic duo walks in, saying what's up to the owners and asking how everyone's doing. Silk and Hook just freeze when they realize how much these kids have glowed up. Silk is shook, asking when they got so tall and what's the deal with their outfits. Troy proudly flexes that they're wearing their official hero gear. Hook flips out, yelling at Bluff for keeping her student's huge promotion a secret. Their teacher looks super awkward about her buddy making such a massive scene. The couple spoils the kids rotten with free food and cash, making Troy decide it's better to just keep his mouth shut. The chatter keeps going while the camera pans to the outside of a tavern. Hook brings up how long they've been at it and asks if the hero gig has changed much. Troy explains that the daily grind is mostly just patrols and taking down demons. He says they're wearing the gear because they're on duty today, and mentions he bumped into Riley on the way over, stuffing her face with bread. The girl actually looks a bit shy sitting at the bar. Silk asks if just bread is really enough to fill her up, but Riley swears she's totally full. Hook brings up how she's been obsessed with plain croissants ever since she was a little kid. Bluff points out how the owner remembers literally every tiny detail. He chuckles, saying he totally bought the kid's trust back in the day with fresh baked bread. Troy passes her a drink and his partner stutters out a thank you, completely blushing. Silk brings up the rumors that they've been soloing demons and getting super famous. The duo plays it super humble, which just leaves the owner totally confused. Taking down monsters within just 1 month on the job definitely earned them some serious street cred. But of course, the haters got jealous and turned their success into toxic gossip. One salty hero starts whining, asking if people are sleeping on him just because of Troy's success. Another guy brags that he could easily beat the same monster but gets immediately called out for talking trash. Two fighters point out that Riley literally pulled off the exact same stunt. One of them mentions he's on patrol with her tomorrow and his buddy thinks it's wild he didn't know who she was. The MC turns beet red when he realizes the guy is just embarrassed because Riley is a girl. Riley steps up to the gossiping coworker, completely fed up with dealing with the same crap. Silk notices how burnt out the kids look, but her husband says not everyone lets the pressure get to them. Blyden says she totally gets it, since guys used to hit on her non-stop back in her prime. We get a flashback showing a younger Hook and his mentor hanging out at a bar. The two of them were completely staring at Blyden, while she wasn't looking. Furious, she yells at the old guy for being a creep, and Troy ends up pointing the finger at Hook and his master. The mentor gets up in Troy's face about his manners, but the kid just blames his own master. The scene suddenly cuts back to the outside of the joint. Troy lets them know he's heading out to cover his guard shift. Blyden says a super cheerful goodbye, which feels totally weird coming from her. Out of nowhere, she gets her cheek violently pinched and lets out a yelp of pain. Riley scolds their master for smacking Troy so hard for no reason. Blyden teases her, asking if she's got a crush on the guy, and the girl begs her to shut up. Silk pops up out of thin air and straight up asks if Riley is still crushing on her partner. Totally frozen and shook, the girl asks how on earth she figured out her secret. Silk says that even Hook noticed, and her husband chimes in that literally everyone knows except Troy. With her face burning red, Riley mumbles a quick goodbye and bolts from the tavern. Silk cracks up while Blyden just sighs, pointing out that kids seriously never change. The teacher thanks them for the grub and gets ready to bounce, but Silk stops her. Blyden starts panicking, thinking she's about to get some totally unwanted gift. Silk stares her dead in the eye and asks who said she even had a choice. Flashing a smile, the bar owner just asks for a goodbye hug. The ex-hero processes the random request with a deadpan look on her face. Silk squeezes her tight, nagging her about ghosting them for all this time. She says she'd be super bummed if the reason was what she thinks it is, but she knows she gets it. She tells her to visit more often and says they'll always remember her as the hero Blyden. Blyden thinks to herself that she let sweet talk get to her and showed up even though she probably shouldn't have. Finally giving in to the love, she admits to herself that she's actually super happy right there in that hug. Some customers are whispering that she's gotta be Blyden, the hero who actually stood up to the king. One of the guys calls her a total scammer, claiming she's just mooching off society. All of a sudden, the dude trash-talking the master freezes up in pure panic. Hook pops up looking massive and intimidating, flashing a super creepy smile. Looking dead serious, he tells them to either talk about heroes out loud or bounce right now. Totally spooked, the customer yells that the owner lost his marbles and makes a run for it, swearing he's never coming back. Hook gets all annoyed, complaining that those dudes totally ruined a touching moment. Blyden prays for this peace to last, not asking for a single thing more than that. Meanwhile, in some dark spot, a demon thinks it's super weird that everyone is gathered there without any orders from Crad. Dominic notices that Lord Crad has barely been around, but he can still hear the sound of Crod's pen writing through the door. He figures his master must be cooking up a different plan and realizes Blay isn't someone to underestimate. Dominic remembers that, even on high alert, he couldn't read her mind. He worries if his lord will even be alive when the showdown Crad is dying for finally arrives. A drop of sweat rolls down his face. Then he decides to stop overthinking useless stuff and just focus on training. He reflects that, regardless of Blee's level, his own senses have also gotten sluggish. Suddenly, a clawed hand tries to grab him from behind, but he notices and defends himself. The young demon recognizes the newcomer as Lord Onley. The Lord gives a smirk. Onley, a big demon with a flaming skull on his shoulder, asks, "Who are you?" All flustered, the guy introduces himself as Dominic, a subordinate of the Demon King. Only gets mad, asking if he shouldn't let go of his hand, commenting he's pretty cocky for a mere subordinate. Dominic apologizes, but the Lord says he'll let it slide just this once. Only approaches a door, wondering if that's the entrance, but Dominic calls out to him. The Lord turns around and dryly asks what he wants. Dominic asks what, by any chance, brings him to the Demon King's castle. Only gets confused, thinking how annoying it is to get invited and then treated like they don't know why. The young demon says nobody told him anyone was coming. His eyes go wide with the realization. He concludes there's no way Crad invited just one person. Alone in the dark hallway, he gets anxious. Soon after, a girl, Stacy, arrives and says the place was always filthy but looks clean today, then asks her buddy who the guy in front of them is. The masked man, Dravi, replies he heard there are some subordinates in the castle, and Dominic is probably one of them. Suddenly, Stacy screams and tells Dravi to back off, complaining he's kicking up dust and feathers everywhere. Meanwhile, a new guy, Kral Tempest, approaches Dominic and wonders why Crad called them there. Kral turns around and apologizes for startling Dominic, who jumps in fright. The newcomer introduces himself as Kral Tempest and says he can just call him Kral. Kral yawns, mentions Crad never changes, and says he's going in first, but offers a little tip to Dominic beforehand. The young demon looks confused at the offer. Kral then explains he doesn't know exactly who's coming, but he saw Lords Catanatio and Distal on the way. Dominic turns pale hearing those names, realizing his suspicions about the meeting were basically confirmed. He thinks that, just looking at the guests so far, they're all high-ranking demons. Suddenly, a high-pitched voice calls out to him from the dark, and the guy recognizes Roko's voice. A girl shows up squeezing Roko's cheeks, thinking the little thing is super cute. Asila, the Dragon Empress, greets Dominic and asks if Crad has been doing well. Stuttering, the guy calls out to Lady Asila while she complains that Crad never reaches out and she's hurt not knowing how he's been. A massive man shows up and says if she wants to know about Crad, she should just answer his summons. The giant demon keeps staring at the Empress with a serious look. He is bait, rank 1, and he asks straight up why she never shows up when summoned. Asila yells that it's because it's a pain, and the big guy scolds her, telling her not to say that like it's something to be proud of. She whines that the mean man is picking on her, and tells Roko to lead the way to the meeting spot, but the little one says she wasn't told anything. Asila then suggests they walk together to find it, while Bait walks up and greets Dominic, saying Crad really insisted he come. Bait points out that even demons who never show their faces are there. Bait starts questioning why exactly they were called to this meeting. Hearing this, Dominic gets completely shocked by his question. Bait then realizes and asks if Dominic also has no clue about the reason. Dominic says no, explaining he's going to gather everyone at the spiral staircase area since he doesn't know how many were contacted. Already in the Great Hall, several demons were gathered there. Our MC gets nervous seeing a bunch of people there who would usually never show up. Then, Roko calls out to Mr. Dominic, looking a bit anxious. She says only 11 people showed up and asks where the others were. Another demon reassures her, saying that's already a lot of people. The girl is stunned, questioning how that could be considered a lot of people. Dominic then gets that she doesn't know much about Lord Crad and offers to tell a story. He starts saying that a long time ago, on the border dividing the human world and the demon realm, a mysterious abyss popped out of nowhere. This abyss devoured everything it touched without a trace, whether human or demon, and kept growing bigger and bigger. Humans and demons declared the end of the world had come, and right when everyone fell into despair, someone showed up and just swallowed the very abyss that was devouring the world. That person was the demon Crad, and the news that Crad prevented the end of the world brought a new kind of despair to humans. At the same time, it gave the demons a new hope they had never known. For ages, humans and demons had balanced forces, but now the demons had gained absolute power. Naturally, Crad became the Demon King, and with the power of the Abyss in his hands, it seemed obvious demons would rule the world. But then, another lord asked if Crad wasn't going to conquer the human world, but Crad just told him to do it himself. Crad himself had zero interest in ruling the human world. To him, who only cared about a rival showing up, there was no reason to change the world that kept sending him heroes. Unsatisfied demons challenged him one by one, but of course nobody could stand up to Crad. Some, realizing they couldn't win, started protesting against his ownership of the Abyss. Crad, acknowledging the will of the majority, took action. He gave a piece of the Abyss as a test to those claiming ownership, and those who received a fragment of the Abyss simply vanished on the spot. He hasn't directly harmed the human world yet, but just by having the Abyss, humans treat him as their #1 target. And even ruling the demon realm, the other demons treat him with resentment and ignore him. Dominic explains that on summoning days, in practice, almost nobody shows up, except for Kral and Lord Bait. During one summon, Bait gets furious and thinks all the absentees have clearly lost their minds. Bait comments that the Demon King puts out a summon and they don't even make up a decent excuse. He suggests they might as well take the chance to reorganize the rankings. Krau thinks the Demon Realm hierarchy really is a total mess. Right then, someone calls out Bait's name. It's Krod, who shows up saying that's enough and he'll talk to the absentees later, personally thanking the two who showed up. Dominic, standing nearby, thinks there's no use worrying. He figures the best he can do is fulfill his role as a subordinate. Snapping back to the present, Rocco interrupts him, pointing up and asking if that person coming down isn't the Lord himself. Confused, he looks up, not getting what she means. From the ceiling, a dark figure starts falling. The being lands doing the Iron Man pose, which leaves Rocco amazed, while the other demon wonders what the heck that is. Dominic, in a panic, asks what's going on, and the king calms him down, telling him not to worry because he'll handle things himself. Krad introduces himself, saying it's good to see everyone and that he'll get straight to the point, leaving Bait confused. He explains that today's guests are all the ranked demons from 50th to 1st place, but only 11 showed up, and they all got the flyer with the picture of two humans, Troy and Riley. The camera focuses on the posters, showing the faces of the guy Troy and the girl Riley. Krad describes them as rookie heroes who just popped up in the human world like comets. Then he lays out the challenge, where anyone confident enough should try to capture the two of them, and the reward is the absolute obedience of the king himself. The proposal leaves all the demons present completely shocked. The Demon King turns his back to the group. Rocco, terrified, stutters asking Dominic if she heard that right. Dominic just repeats to himself that Krad isn't totally clueless. Processing the proposal, Krad repeats the proposal. With that, all the demons realize it's actually true. The king turns his back to everyone once again. Dominic recalls a memory, thinking that no matter how tough the road gets, he'd keep walking. Back in the present, Dominic wonders if he took a wrong turn somewhere, since he's on a one-way street now. Terra, the stone demon, questions Krad, wanting to confirm if capturing the heroes means the Lord will be under his command. But Only, the demon in a suit, cuts him off, asking who he thinks he is to speak, since he's dead last in the rankings. Only then asks Krad what he thinks he's doing, but the Lord just replies, "What?" Terra gets furious at the interruption and calls Only a disgrace to all demons. The suited demon mocks him, saying the ranking system is falling apart if even a cheap knockoff is looking for a fight. He then taunts Terra, promising to build a monument over his dead body. Worried about a brawl breaking out, one of the hooded demons asks if they really want to fight right here and now. He then turns to Catanaccio, asking him to do something instead of just watching, but Catanaccio doesn't even flinch. The hooded demon starts explaining it's because Mr. Terra and Mr. Catanaccio are, but he gets cut off. Catanaccio speaks up, saying he doesn't disagree with Only and thinks everyone there is weak, asking Raber to move out of the way too. The hooded demon is revealed to be Raber, who glares at Catanaccio with a serious look. Annoyed, he asks what the hell Catanaccio just said. Catanaccio in turn says he'll give him one chance to take back what he said. Right then, an armored demon named Frater shows up and demands Catanaccio apologize to his youngest brother immediately. Amidst the chaos, one of the Lord's comments he honestly had no idea the demons there worked so poorly together. Another agrees, saying they are worse than the two of them, and compared to that, the relationship is actually civilized. The duo watches the situation. Suddenly, the woman charges in, screaming that it's gross and to let her hit him, landing a solid punch right in Frater's stomach. Bait and Kral look confused and say these demons must have escaped the loony bin. The king is happy with the situation. Bait then asks Lord Krad if he's not going to stop them, but Krad laughs and says he can't, since if they were the type to listen, they would have changed by now. Bait yells, asking how long they're going to keep fighting and if they aren't ashamed of acting like this in front of the Demon King. Trying to step in, Asila dashes right past him. Kral yells desperately for Asila to wait and asks her to mediate things. Kral then says he'll be back in 3 minutes and dips at top speed, while the Lord turns to Dominic and tells him to cover Rocco just in case, leaving her confused. Dominic turns to Rocco and lets her know he's going to hold her hand for a second. Rocco gets embarrassed but holds out her hand as Dominic asks for permission. The moment he touches her, he feels a cozy warmth. A female figure, with her back turned, warns them not to panic about what's coming and to hold their breath on her cue. She then starts counting to 3. The countdown continues to 2. Hitting 3, the figure turns around with a smile and tells everyone to shut up for a second. Instantly, all the brawling demons are paralyzed by a crushing pressure. Roko narrates that, when holding Dominic's hand, she felt like multiple layers of warm blankets wrapped around her. But on the third cue, the air around them turned freezing, and she wonders what state the others are in right now. The narration explains that dragons, even living openly, are called mythical creatures. That's because the killing intent a dragon naturally carries is insanely huge, and only another dragon can face them head-on. And a dragon who masters the art of channeling energy leads the rest. Asura then challenges anyone who has a problem with her mediation to step up and fight her for second place. She says she'll handle them all by herself, and that she especially wanted to deal with Stacy since they're both women. Stacy is in shock with tears in her eyes. She tries to apologize, screaming, "Wait, sis, I didn't mean to," but Asura cuts her off. With a bored look, she says, "Wow, is she cutting me off?" The demons who were fighting earlier get furious at the meddling, cursing the damn counselor. Asura thinks she might as well just kill everyone and start from scratch, but Crad interrupts her, politely saying, "Excuse me." Crad walks up and asks if the vehicle parked outside the castle is hers, politely asking her to move her car since it's a no parking zone. Everyone falls silent, processing the bizarre scene, while Bay and Crawl watch with baffled expressions. Asura shoots him a side eye. Suddenly, she bursts out laughing, admitting she's heard that joke a million times, but it's still funny. Crod tells Dominic he warned him that joke works like a charm every time. She then looks up at the sky and calls for her big brother, saying it's nothing serious and telling him to head back home. Outside the castle, a gigantic dragon gripping the tower growls. The dragon listens and declares that the Empress gave her order. He then orders all units to fall back and several dragon silhouettes vanish into the sky. Dominic mentions they're gone and that's the dignity of a dragon, asking Rocco to let go of his hand, which makes her shriek in embarrassment and apologize. Crad says the mood seems to have chilled out enough, so he'll go over some ground rules and open the floor for questions. Right after, the Lord starts explaining everything. He announces that if anyone chickens out, they can quit, but the chance passes to the next guy, and reveals the order will go from lowest to highest rank. Only and Crawl listen closely to the explanation that the challenge order will follow everyone's rank from bottom to top. Hearing this, Dominic realizes that, in this case, there's no way Lord Bait won't be the final challenger. Bait looks visibly tense at that conclusion. He wonders what the hell Crad is thinking, while his identity is revealed as the #1 rank. Asila, ranked 2nd, figures it might not even get to her turn. Then we see Distal, the rank 3 demon. The 5th-ranked, Catanatio, decides he can't just sit around waiting. Crawl, ranked 7th, worries that this challenge order is way too advantageous for Lord Onley. Meanwhile, Stacy, ranked 9th, daydreams that if she could build a spider army with the power of the abyss, she could rule the world. Dravi, the 10th, declares he'll conquer the dominion of the skies his sisters wanted so badly. Right then, a close-up on Onley's face reveals a sinister smile. Onley, 11th and dead last in the ranking, laughs to himself and thinks he was born exactly for this day. Frater, 23rd in the ranking, thinks it could all end in his little brother's hands before it's even his turn. Then Raber, 25th, declares he'll show the ultimate underdog comeback to everyone who underestimated him. Meanwhile, Terra starts laughing, getting what that all means. And with a grin, the rank 33 stone demon yells that he's the first challenger. And just like that, the Demon King's trials to turn Troy and Riley into perfect rivals have officially begun. Dominic, disguised as the commander, states they won't send any backup to where Troy and Riley are right now. One of the underlings panics since the opponent is way stronger and leaving the heroes alone will lead to casualties. The fake commander claps back about the casualties, pointing to the current state of Hero Reeve, who is the first to face the tentacle demon. He wraps it up saying everyone there knows who beat the previous 2 demons, and that's reason enough. The hooded guys fall silent, whispering among themselves. The disguised commander then declares he'll take full responsibility for the outcome. Dominic figures this story will keep other heroes from interfering, and he also tweaked the real commander's memory to fit the situation when he wakes up. Meanwhile, Crad is chilling in a recliner with 3D glasses and popcorn, praising Dominic. Over at the fight, Rocco watches the scene and thinks the fighters sure are talking a lot for people in the middle of a brawl. She then asks if there's any way to get subtitles and mentions she now gets why he made her provide cover last time. Back at the fight, an explosion goes off. The MC blocks a spinning attack with her sword. Looking dead serious, she admits the opponent's skills are actually pretty decent. But right after that, a giant stone foot smashes the ground. Terra materializes from the dust, saying he's not sure how much longer our MC can hold out. Terra hurls a bunch of sharp rock fragments straight at our hero, but our little MC gets ready to land a perfect parry. She then takes a deep breath, focusing for a split second. In her ink realm, the girl lines up a counterattack. With a single swing of her sword, she deflects the 3 stone spears. The strikes rush quickly toward Terra. Crad, watching everything, explains that it's the second technique, a slash that splits in 3 directions, the scatter strike. He goes on, saying the move can be used to handle multiple targets at the same time. Impressed, Crad smiles and wonders if this could also be called talent. Our MC gets furious and yells at her to bring her Troy back right now. Terra mocks her, asking if she means the guy caught in the ambush, and claims she can't feel his presence, so he must be a goner. The girl is shocked, completely speechless at the taunt. The stone demon laughs and says, "You never know until you see it with your own eyes." She then warns that, if she really doesn't believe it, she'll send her right to her partner's side. Right after, giant stone spikes shoot up from the sand. Our MC tries to calm down. With a distant look, she just replies, "I see." With a gleam in her eye, she reads the situation and asks herself, "So that's how it is?" Crad watches the whole scene without blinking. The popcorn in his hand has even gone stale. He is blown away by our MC's intuition and asks Dominic if he knows why she picked that spot for the fight. Dominic explains that in an open dirt field, Terra could push her skills way beyond their limits. The landscape shows the rough terrain with stone spikes everywhere. Terra looks imposing in the middle of the rocky scenery. Crad then continues, saying her weak spot is also pretty obvious since she controls her power through a crystal core. The girl's only problem was figuring out how to reach the core. But in that brief clash, she found Terra's hidden weakness. Terra gives a wicked smile. Terra brags, saying it was like taking candy from a baby. At that, our MC activates another Inkrom technique, creating a barrier of black thorns. The skill expands and shatters everything around her. A massive blast of energy takes over the place. Terra complains that the hero is a tough nut to crack, but warns it's a waste of time trying to escape. Suddenly, she notices something weird on the ground and wonders what that is. Meanwhile, Crad watches everything and comments that, just as he thought, this stuff never gets old. On the ground, 3 purple spheres with ink patterns are revealed. The spheres then release a black smoke that spreads across the battlefield using the scatter strike technique. The stone demon gets confused, wondering if the smoke screens are just for distraction. With her eye glowing, she insists that, either way, there's no running away. The narration explains that to Terra, the ground doesn't just boost her power, it's also a life force sensor. Because of that, even out of sight, any living being stepping on the ground has their presence revealed to her. One of the purple spheres on the ground starts glowing brightly. Terra says she hid her presence with the smoke, but it's no use, since she can see through anything. She then warns she can just deal with all 3 at once. Terra creates and drops a stone wall right on top of the ink balls. With a victorious smirk, she crushes the spheres. A voice pops up behind Terra asking if she serves anyone, revealing our MC sneaking up from behind. Terra can't figure out how that's possible since it doesn't seem like an illusion. Riley's judgment was cold and clear. She went over the demon's words about not feeling Troy's presence and figured she sensed energy through the earth. Inside the rock prison, the hero thought that, even with her vision blocked, the attacks were pinpoint accurate, confirming that detection. Suddenly, the girl gets an idea and thinks, wait, life force detection. Riley's analysis, done through careful testing, was spot on. What Terra detects is life energy. She then suppressed her presence and infused her energy into the sword, and the moment the attack shifted to the blade, she put her plan into action. Dominic watches it all and asks how Riley managed to close the gap. Crad explains that the only option left for the hero was suppressing her presence and using the scatter strike blades to get closer. Our MC gets ready to deal the final blow to her enemy. Terra gets tense. In despair, she gets furious and yells that it's stupid, since there's no reason to fall back, wondering what someone who dropped their sword could even do. With a quick move, the girl calls her sword back. The stone enemy panics. Crad is surprised, saying this is intel not even Blade had shown before. He gets hyped, thinking it's awesome that the sword can be called back even from a distance. At that, Terra screams in pain as she's attacked from behind. Riley's sword runs her clean through, piercing her chest. In shock, the stone demon sees her crystal core exposed. Riley steps up and says her instinct to dodge close combat proved that was indeed the weak spot. She then jams the sword into the crystal, smashing it to pieces. The hero keeps a focused look as she finishes the strike. Suddenly, something hits her hard, making her scream. The girl is sent flying backward. Hurt, Riley glares at Terra, who recovers and admits it wasn't a bad strategy. Terra reveals several other crystal cores on her body and says the hero should have looked closer beforehand. Far from there, our main guy hears the fighting sounds, realizes our MC is fighting alone again, and knows he needs to get there fast. The hit strikes Riley dead on, breaking her guard with a snap. Even injured, the hero keeps a steady gaze and starts analyzing the situation. The stone demon sneers, saying Riley should have looked closer before picking her target. Tara then brags, claiming she never thought a human would push her this far, and offers to hear the girl's last words. Our MC smiles. Tara finds it weird that her opponent is smiling. She realizes the enemy is just buying time to get her strength back. Riley then lays out her analysis, explaining that if the villain's power was the earth, she'd keep the same strength from the ambush. And second, even if the terrain helps, upon hitting Tara's fist, she noticed she's hollow inside, which is why she dodges close combat. The stone demon panics, wondering if Cred tricked her and how a rookie can have such an intimidating presence. From afar, Crab smiles and comments that since Riley is one of the most talented sword fighters in history and Blee's disciple, the result is only natural. The girl states that, lastly, she's still a hero and not the type to just attack without thinking. She reveals that even before plunging her blade, she had already spotted the fake crystals. The scene shows the real crystal cracking under the sword's pressure. Riley finishes by saying that when she pierced it, she felt a flow of energy, and a reaction like that would never come from a fake target. Riley asks if the enemy can move her weak spot. Tara stays silent for a second, totally stunned. Then the demon starts laughing, saying there are so many wrong answers she can't help but crack up. But she admits the effort was admirable. With a boom, the villain transforms, getting bigger and more monstrous. She then declares that the power needed to kill the hero has just been gathered. From a distance, Dominic comments on Tara's terrible acting. Crod, looking bored, says if she's gonna fake it, do it like Riley. At that, Tara says if someone is pinned down, it's just an ugly fight, and threatens to blow a hole in their face. Right then, she gets attacked from behind by Troy. The hero charges right at her with everything he's got. Crod mocks them, saying people in love start looking alike, since Troy is aiming for the exact same spot. Dominic panics and asks if they're giving him a chance to forfeit the test. Crad then explains that the whole point of the test was just to level up both of their experience. He wraps up, saying he'd be grateful if they kept going, but there's no need for demons to sacrifice their lives for it. Crad, with a serious look, tells Dominic he's not so scummy that he'd throw away a college life. He then warns Dominic not to look for holes in what he said, reminding him that he's also an accomplice. Crad replies that, even though he's worried about Tara, that's a separate issue and her wishes are what matter most. Back at the fight, Troy lands with a powerful impact on the ground. Carrying Riley in his arms, he apologizes for the delay, but the girl, though thankful for the save, asks him to put her down. Troy asks if she got hit by some deadly poison, but the swordswoman denies it and insists he let her go. Her partner yells that her whole body is burning up, but Riley, totally red, says that's not it and begs to be put down. Tara complains that the two bugs keep coming back no matter how many times she squashes them, and wonders what's up with Troy's inner energy. Tara thinks she couldn't even detect him, but that she gave Riley too much intel, and Troy's appearance cornered her. With that, the boy charges forward. The stone demon gets surprised seeing him approach so fast. Troy remembers what Riley said about the crystal that seemed the most important and realizes that's the one. Tara panics, realizing she doesn't have enough strength to counterattack. The boy then readies his sword with a determined look. But out of nowhere, he feels a massive impact and wonders, what the hell is Theus? In a swift move, Troy takes a punch to the gut and is sent flying. Tara realizes she's alive and only one person could have done that. While hearing in the background, Team Rocket blasting off Again, Crod reveals himself, confirming he was the one who stepped in. The Demon Lord tries to introduce himself, but Dominic cuts him off, asking him not to joke around in that situation. Crad complains about the rudeness and offers Tara the chance to quit the test. Tara finds the offer ridiculous and accuses him of just wanting to stop her out of fear that she might win. But he explains that he treats those with admirable strength with respect, and that's why he let her live. Tara falls silent, completely shocked by the Demon King's words. With her face cracked, she processes the fact that the Great Crad acknowledged her. A tiny version of her pops up, still wondering if she really got acknowledged. She quickly gathers herself, clenching her fist. The fact that she felt a moment of joy from those words is, somehow, really sad. An energy then starts crackling around her hand. Using her power, the stone demon completely regenerates the cracks on her body. She then tells Crad to shut up and warns that the test continues since she came ready for victory or death. Tara unleashes a powerful aura and declares that the acknowledgement of anyone other than him means absolutely nothing to her. Tara declares that she is the earth itself. Riley yells to check if Troy's okay, and he, recovering from the hit, wonders if he was too careless. He regrets the mistake, since he was so sure she wouldn't counterattack after using all her power. Suddenly, a voice pops up asking if Troy and Riley can hear it, and the boy is startled, recognizing the commander's voice. The commander confirms it's him and says he'll be brief, just passing along what needs to be said. The scene cuts quickly to a clear blue sky with no sign of danger. The commander then explains, talking through the communicator bracelet, which is why he didn't send backup. He goes on, saying he thinks he lost his mind and can't believe the decision he made. But Troy warns him the reception is spotty because of the noise. Both heroes look up, shocked by the sudden darkness, with a serious expression. Far away, someone punches a wall, annoyed with the situation. The commander complains that the connection suddenly dropped and wonders what's going on, where the two are. One of his subordinates panics and tells them to pull the nearest surveillance lever. Crad just sighs and tells Dominic that, since he saw it too, he'll have to give a proper testimony later. Dominic realizes Crad was only asking out of courtesy. Crad then mentions that it looks like Troy and Riley will win, but Tara's final trump card is spectacular, and asks Dominic to frame the scene in an extreme wide shot. An explanation pops up, defining the extreme wide shot as a filming technique with the widest angle possible, explaining that the technique is used to emphasize the grand scale of a setting. The explanation wraps up as a giant rock monster rises from the ground. The giant creature then roars that it'll bury every single one of them. Troy watches the scene, sweating and visibly shaken by the enemy's scale. He wonders how they're going to face a demon like that, but either way, he can't let that thing get near the village. The boy then turns to his partner and says it's time to start, exactly as they planned. The stone monster looks for the heroes, pissed off that it can't sense them even with its heightened senses. Tara didn't just grow, her ability to command the earth also improved drastically, destroying everything around her. An ordinary hero would have simply been swallowed and buried by the approaching debris, or else they would have decided they couldn't handle the situation and just ran away. But the stone demon is surprised and thinks that, as expected, he's the first to show up. Turns out the two heroes are different, and instead of running, they face the enemy head-on. The giant villain confirms she already expected Troy to show up first and then launches an attack. A massive stone snake creature bursts from the ground, charging full speed ahead. Troy is shocked, remembering he had almost killed that snake before. But suddenly, something hits the ground with a violent impact. It's Riley, leaping into the air. The snake snaps its jaws and swallows our little MC. It feels something weird, then Riley destroys it from the inside out. Meanwhile, Troy uses the distraction to push forward. He then mocks her, warning that if she's gonna show up just to get beat again, next time she should bring some friends. Troy stares down the earth snakes and realizes he shouldn't have provoked her. The stone demon figures they're still looking for her weak spot. The scene cuts back to Riley explaining her plan, where she claims the enemy will definitely prioritize keeping an eye on her. At that, Troy, jumping through the trees, agrees, recalling Riley said she had an idea of the opponent's weakness. But the swordswoman warns him he'll need to be more than just bait. She then explains her theory, saying that since the enemy controls the earth, she uses the open terrain to her advantage. But the moment a flaw shows up, she panics and can't attack properly. That's why Troy concludes with a smile that the opponent might be way simpler than they think. Back in the present, Troy finds it a bit disappointing to have made it this far, and the opponent still doesn't even acknowledge him. Tara wonders if he smashed all the earth snakes, but quickly shakes off the worry, thinking she can just make more. The camera focuses on the stone creatures, standing by and waiting for a command. Tara then concludes that, besides his weak presence, there's nothing special about Troy. In a split screen, Riley then says she's counting on her partner. Then the plan kicks off, and to find the new spot for the crystal core, they need to distract the enemy, so Troy yells in her direction. The earth snakes charge full force at the boy, who screams at them not to do that. Even while getting hit, Troy yells not to be ignored. With his head bleeding, he screams at her to stop ignoring him once and for all. But Tara thinks she noticed from the start that he was the bait, so the right call is to focus on Riley. With that, a flashback shows Riley's plan, explaining that Tara underestimating Troy also means she underestimates his power. The girl continues, saying that if Troy shows firepower the enemy isn't expecting, she's definitely gonna hesitate. Right after, her partner fires off a powerful blast. The hit shocks Tara, who wonders what that power was and questions if he was holding back. The scene shows Troy in the air, finishing the attack. Tara thinks that hit landed perfectly and wonders if it was all part of their plan. And then, Troy launches a second attack with the exact same power. Only after taking a second hit with the same intensity did Tara realize something was wrong. Seeing the hero charge forward, she wonders if his plan is to keep pushing until he completely steals her focus. Crad asks why she's hesitating even with so much power. Troy pressures her to make a choice. Either she takes the bait and gives Riley another opening, or she faces a direct attack. From afar, Dominic laments, thinking just the fact they survived the ambush was a warning, and as Krad said, the outcome won't change. Dominic notices something is wrong and is left not understanding the situation. Tara's dilemma was choosing between Troy and Riley as the biggest threat. But no matter her choice, the outcome wouldn't change unless Tara chose neither of them. After gathering her thoughts, Tara decides to stir up some trouble for the heroes. Riley realizes Tara is about to chuck the boulder toward the village, and Troy yells that he'll stop her. The guy then focuses a surge of energy into his sword, and right after, he unleashes a powerful attack to intercept the projectile. He plants his feet firmly to brace for the impact. Troy yells that the power needs to be as strong as it can possibly be. His attack transforms into a spiral-shaped barrier, and this energy barrier manages to hold back the giant boulder. Exhausted, Troy sighs and says he barely managed to stop the attack. But suddenly, his expression twists into pure agony. Tara rushes in and lands a solid jab on him, and the impact sends Troy flying. Tara reveals she broke her own arm throwing the boulder, but says it was worth it since she has Troy right where she wants him and orders the earth serpent to chew him to bits. The stone serpent then lunges with its mouth wide open to attack the kid. From a distance, Dominic is in shock, realizing she used Troy's duty as a hero against him. Tara breathes a sigh of relief and admits the move might have been a cheap shot, but it was the best she could do. But then, out of nowhere, she's hit by a blue strike and wonders if it was an attack from Riley. Just then, Riley's voice echoes, asking what Tara's problem is with knocking Troy around all the time. The stone demon senses something is different, a variable she can't quite figure out. Riley appears and threatens to knock her opponent's head clean off. Changing scenes, Blay announces it's time for a lesson, and the topic is the nervous system. One of the students is confused by the reason for the sudden class. Next thing you know, Blay just flings a knife right at the student, who screams in terror. The master explains that when the body reacts before the mind, that's a reflex, and tells him to dodge properly, all while the kid is freaking out. But behind him, Riley has already caught the knife. Blee explains that Troy's body reacted on instinct, turning his head, while Riley saw the projectile and caught it midair. Riley comments that Troy almost got a new scar, and the master points out that they both got the same result. Then he turns to Riley and asks a question, wanting to know if anything specific caught her eye. The girl gets a little flustered, trying to think of the answer. The master says with a smirk that there's no way she didn't see it, making the swordswoman turn beet red. Riley keeps thinking, while Troy panics, realizing his partner saw everything. The guy is impressed and concludes that Riley is incredible. Riley then starts to answer, as Troy reacted to the knife heading for his eye. He ended up blinking, but she couldn't see the connection between that reflex and his chi. She continues, detailing the sequence, explaining that after moving his torso, he turns his head, and only then, last of all, do his eyes close. Blee smiles, satisfied, thinking she knew Riley would get it, praising her ability to figure out 10 things from just one. The girl is shocked by her own perception. Holding the knife that now glows with a blue aura, Riley thinks this could be incredibly useful. Back in the present, Tara decides that if she throws another boulder at the village, Riley, being the hero, will have to react the same way. Except as she launches the attack, she notices the hero just ignores it and charges forward. Tara is in disbelief, wondering if they don't care about the civilians. But ignoring the dilemma, the place Riley ran to was where the real answer was. A close-up shows a small glowing yellow crystal. Tara realizes this isn't a test shot but a finishing blow. Riley then uses an ability called Position Swap, plunging her sword into the crystal. The blade then materializes exactly where the crystal is. A small demon who was near the crystal realizes it barely survived. Tara is stunned, wondering how she reacted even though it was a surprise attack. She thinks that even under Troy's assault, she never let her guard down, and that the hero found her weakness the moment she was out of sight. Tara is in shock at what she's seeing. What she saw was the same type of sword Riley used when she cornered her. It was a blade with a small amount of sword aura. Riley decided to exploit her opponent's unstable mental state, who was trying to hide her panic while Troy was attacking her. Unconsciously, the villain's frightened body flinched in the exact direction of her weak spot, and a swordswoman's sword aura didn't miss that slight shift in position. Riley then yells, "Gotcha!" Riley reveals that the weak spot is her heart. Tara panics at the revelation. She then desperately screams for her minions to stop the hero right now. The smaller serpents charge forward to keep her from getting any closer. Tara thinks to herself that she can't go down in such a pathetic way. With that, a giant shadowy version of Tara appears in front of the hero. The monstrous creature roars for her to stop trying to grab her. Tara lets out a huge burst of air as Riley is enveloped in the ink. Tara, seeing the smokescreen, yells for Riley to stop hiding and come out. Inside, Riley thinks that her body won't move, lamenting that all she needed to do was break the crystal in front of her. The yellow crystal, the source of her enemy's power, glows brightly. Tara then thinks that, in the end, Riley is only human, and in a long fight like this, it's normal for her stamina to run out. She also admits her own power is drained and she can barely maintain her form, but still tells Riley to come out. Tara starts to get a sinking feeling in her gut. She senses something is wrong and thinks she must have been mistaken. The villain continues to deny it, saying there's no way. Out of nowhere, RMC appears looking relieved, thinking that was a close one. Looking at her opponent, Tara's jaw drops at Troy's resilience. Our boy looks at a yellow crystal and feels kinda bad, like he's kill-stealing. Then he thanks his partner, saying she handled Tara really well. As he charges forward with a powerful attack, Tara gets desperate, screaming that there's no way she can lose, because she is the heart of the earth. As her consciousness fades, she wonders if it was all just a sham. Just then, Catanaccio appears and questions what that was all about, asking if she doesn't want to be Tara anymore. Catanaccio hears the demon's reply, who says she just found the name Tara too plain. She should save that nonsense for when she climbs the ranks. Tara, now, stammers out an apology. Catanaccio says that, well, if she really wants a new name that badly, she needs to do something that will shock him, and until that happens, he'll think of a new name for her. The scene cuts to the giant creature's stone body exploding. The narration then reflects that, in the end, Tara sacrificed her own life, and because of that, Troy and Riley emerged victorious. After taking down the demon, Riley and Troy take a breather to recover and patch up their wounds. At the end of the day, it's simple. Rest is the only way to get back to full strength. Since Troy took a heavy hit, it's gonna take a while for him to be 100% again. Feeling a bit better, Riley shifts gears and gets right back to work. A one-eyed monster comes sprinting in, looking absolutely desperate. It starts screaming a warning, shouting about danger non-stop. Running up to its allies, it keeps yelling for them to get out of there. Confused by the chaos, the other monsters just stare at each other, totally lost. In a panic, the little guy bolts to warn them that the hero is on the scene. And just like that, its head is gone, and it lets out a deafening cry. They stand there frozen, watching their comrade get taken out. Realizing what's happening, the monster panics and screams for everyone to run while its neighbor gets wiped out too. With no clue what's going on, the last thing it sees before falling is Riley's white hair. Riley mentions she cleared all the trolls in the way, while Troy, stunned by her skill, heads over to meet her. Missing Troy so much, she gets distracted and completely forgets about the mission. A guy arrives on the scene with a huge grin, giving props to the protagonist for that insane feat. Staying humble, Riley makes sure to thank everyone for the backup they provided. But Cretin doesn't let it slide, pointing out that she was the one who absolutely bodied all those trolls. He's still skeptical, doubting anyone there could actually handle those trolls. Rada isn't buying it, telling him straight up that his mindset is all wrong. With a cynical smirk, Rada asks if they have any idea how much trouble they're in. He insists there's no way she can pretend she didn't see the solution to this massive problem. Riley asks if there's really anyone who can handle flash magic properly. Creighton says he's pretty sure about what he's saying, while his friend looks a bit terrified. And that's where it gets good. The real solution was stupidly simple. Riley realizes this place is the monster's nest. Time to cut the problem off at the root once and for all. While Rada stays cautious, Riley reaches a conclusion. Now it's just about calculating the monster's power level. Rada makes sure to warn them that these creatures are way smarter than they thought. The result, going head-to-head with these monsters, has become a nearly impossible mission. Any spark of light triggers them to attack without a shred of mercy. But before he could even finish, Riley told him to pipe down. The mood shifted instantly when they realized the villain showed up way earlier than expected. Looks like the monsters came to greet them first. Rate is uneasy because the trolls aren't attacking yet, but Riley confirms they really are smarter than usual. The duo tries to light up the area as much as possible to see where the monsters are coming from. Terrified, Rada asks Riley if she'll keep her word. We retreat if it's a fight we can't win after gauging their power. Riley just tells him to light the way, and the kid tries to hide his fear in front of her. He convinces himself he's safe, masking the fact that he's shaking on the inside. Out of nowhere, a massive beast appears right in front of the duo. The guy's trembling like a leaf, fully convinced his time has finally come. A bright blue aura flares up as Riley hits the creature with a subjugation order. And that's where it gets crazy. The look on the beast's face shows pure, unadulterated shock. A deafening boom shatters the silence, taking the monster down for good. It's no surprise, considering she survived every wild situation you could possibly imagine. The shockwave hits other trolls too, freezing them in place as they feel an overwhelming pressure. To her, These monsters are just minor nuisances that don't even pose a threat. Rado wakes up dazed, looking completely lost after hearing shouts calling his name. Cretin pops up, asking if his buddy managed to see it with his own eyes. Eyes wide, he's left wondering how things could have ended up like that. Rada realizes Riley was spot on. These trolls are way smarter than they look. The monsters turn their faces away the second the light hits them, and just like that, the boss goes down, knocked out by a single surgical strike. Riley tells Cretin to just keep the light steady. The monsters start shaking in their boots, sensing the blow Riley is about to unleash. She gives them a death stare and keeps it real. The fun is over. The kid is in total shock, rambling incoherently as he starts to lose it. Completely lost, Raita makes a weird noise just like the trolls, leaving everyone wondering if he's turning into one. Night falls, and the only things shining above are the stars. Recognizing that Riley saved everyone, Harkin, the operation lead, sends his thanks over the comms. Riley admits that without that flash of vision she couldn't have pulled it off alone. Even with things up in the air, they still have to deal with the other troll groups. Feeling uneasy, she wonders if any of this actually makes sense. Promising to keep things under control, Harkin tells Riley to chill out and get some rest. She keeps it real, genuinely thanking him for all the work he put in today. Letting out a sigh of relief, she finally lets her guard down and relaxes. Riley celebrates, having finally achieved exactly what she was aiming for. Stretching out on the bed, she starts wondering where Troy ended up. The bracelet beeps and she freezes, confused about who would be calling this late. She was about to drift off dreaming of Troy, but she lights up her blue bracelet to answer. Troy picks up the call and immediately asks, "Did I wake Riley up?" Dazed and blushing, she tries to hide her embarrassment while asking why Troy is calling so late. He quickly brushes it off, claiming he was just curious to see if she was doing okay. Feeling flustered, she admits it really means a lot to her and says, "Thanks." Checking his schedule, he notices her return is set for Tuesday, and just like that, everything changed. He's stunned by the news and can't believe she was that fast. She blurts out that she couldn't wait any longer and was just rushing to see him again. Then she cuts him off, telling him not to chicken out or hang up the phone. He freezes up, wondering if he just caught a weird vibe coming from her. Riley keeps Troy busy for 30 minutes with pure charm and strategy. Exhausted, she lets out a heavy sigh after putting in so much effort. Dying of embarrassment, she regrets talking way too much. Riley stares at the ceiling, sighs again, and gets lost in her own thoughts. Troy's voice is still stuck in her head, leaving her feeling warm and wondering if he'll call again tomorrow. Suddenly, her bracelet rings, and she tries to convince herself it isn't Troy. She freezes, stuttering as she thinks, "But what if it is him?" Out of nowhere, a guy shows up and humbly thanks her for the mission. Feeling bad for the late interruption, Riley says it was generous of him and isn't sure if she deserves such kindness. No one saw that coming. She stops dead in her tracks, seeing a child hiding behind him. The man explains that thanks to Riley, his daughter can play in the forest again and wanted to thank her in person. With a soft heart, she asks for the little girl's name, thinking she's adorable. Glancing at the paper, she's in total shock, looking like she's seen a ghost. Speechless, she completely locks up and feels the heat rush to her face, turning bright red. Riley is confused, trying to think of a way to help the shy girl open up. She accepts the gift from the girl and thanks her with a sparkle in her eyes that says it all. Riley asks if the girl wrote her name on the back of the drawing. She freezes, completely surprised by the girl's name. Her name is Luna. With a compliment, she has that classic moment of being lost between shame and confusion. Riley puts her hands together and says in sign language that it was nice to meet her. She gives a small smile, thanks her for the gift, and promises to cherish it. Riley remembers her master saying that everyone's life energy has a unique color. She keeps imagining a color she was once afraid to let blend with the others. The little girl starts crying, but Riley decides it's time to let those colors mix. Looking at the horizon, Riley realizes, as expected, my return was moved up to the day after tomorrow. She watches the city of Urbanos, concluding, "I even got special treatment at work, and the local heroes are finishing off the rest of the trolls." Hiding her discomfort about being the only one resting, Riley walks through the city under the guise of patrolling. "I tried to warn them this might look bad for the other heroes," she comments on the special treatment. Lost in thought, she wonders, could what happened yesterday have anything to do with all this? Gratefully, Riley accepts the gift and says moved, "Thank you, I'll treasure this for the rest of my life." Luna hugs the girl out of nowhere, breaking through all the hesitation. The silence turns heavy, and Riley is caught off guard by the little girl's gesture. Keeping her composure, the hero faces the situation. "That wasn't just talk. I promise on my honor." Harkin is deeply moved and asks Riley, "I can't believe it. Since when do you know sign language?" She answers humbly, "I learned a bit from my master when I was much younger. I'm not fluent, but..." She dives into her memories. My master was a hero too. She's retired now. With a sad, respectful look, she adds, she loved children. The spark in the hero's eye shows she finally gets it. Her mentor used to help kids who struggled to communicate. Riley shares how the woman dedicated her free time to learning sign language. I guess what she taught me just came back to me out of nowhere. She explains, feeling nostalgic. Harkin appears looking worn out and Riley asks desperate, Mr. Harkin, are you okay? He gives a small smile and says, haha, it must be because kids admire heroes. Then Harkin adds, our Luna loves heroes too, but the more she loves them, the more she tries to keep her distance. Harkin, grateful for the moment, finishes. Those were just simple words, but they meant a lot. Thank you, hero Riley. Riley processes everything in silence, thinking, just as I thought. Alone on the bench, she reflects. There's no such thing as a useless lesson from a master. Pensive. She concludes with melancholy. They say heroes deserve respect for their honor. It should have been that way for my master too. Tears stream down Riley's face as she asks, heartbroken, why do adults do this? Surrounded by threatening people, the girl murmurs in doubt. Master Bleak. Could she be the coolest hero of them all? The weight of destiny hits, and a silhouette is consumed by a violent darkness, the trace of a sacrifice that marks the end of an era. The girl, in pure panic, grabs Troy's arm. Troy, we have to help the master. We need to do something. He holds her back, stopping the madness. And she asks, crying, Troy, what are you doing? Why are you stopping me? Terrified, she freezes at the sinister order. The master told us to. Troy stares into the void with eyes red from pain. She said kids have no business here, that we should never get involved. Back to the scene with Riley feeling melancholic, she thinks, Troy, does he still carry those feelings? A man with sharp teeth appears out of nowhere, taunting, so much anguish on such a pretty face. Want some help lightening that load? She jumps back, startled. Oh, sorry, who are you? Trying to figure out how he got so close without her noticing. The guy laughs, mocking. What? You live in Urbanos and don't know me? Oh, I get it, you're that hero who came to deal with the trolls. He introduces himself as the romantic representative of Urbanos, and flashes a cynical smile. Dark Desire. Dark Desire cuts the small talk and gets straight to the point. Come on, maiden. I heard you struggling with a little problem, right? She tries to keep her guard up, feeling uncomfortable. That's not something I tell just anyone. He ignores her and drops the bait. Want me to teach you how to get to the guy you like? She resists, but the advice seems tempting. And that's where it gets good. Dark Desire keeps up the sarcasm while insisting on his strange theory about her tastes. Pointing at himself, he drops some questionable chawn. Just do this and boom, you're closer already, see? Waiting for her reaction, he's clearly enjoying the manipulation. So, was that advice helpful or what? The young lady sighs, looking visibly uncomfortable. With her face burning up, she thinks it over. If I actually do this, will Troy and I really get closer? He keeps pushing. You still don't get it. Guys have the right to choose too. She freezes at his words. If you don't make the first move, he might end up with someone else, you know? He fires back, applying the pressure. It finally clicks. And she thinks about how good-looking Troy is. Oh my gosh, how did I not think of that? Getting paranoid, she starts to panic. I let my guard down because there's no heroine around. But what if he gets involved with some shopkeeper during patrol? The panic levels up. What if that's happening right now? He cuts through her spiral. You're slower than I thought. Calm your head down. Smiling, satisfied with the chaos he caused. I think I'll get going. Out of nowhere, a shout interrupts everything. Hero Riley. She turns around, trying to see who's calling. Mr. Harkin. Harkin shows up sweating, looking desperate. You were gone. Have you seen Luna around? His desperation is clear as he explains his wife called, and the girl vanished without a trace. She immediately offers to help. I'll help you look. Tell me where she usually goes. Dark Desire interrupts with a sinister grin. No need to look. Dark Desire is on the rooftop, wearing a cynical smile and radiating pure menace. I know exactly where the little girl is. Raper, the rank 25 demon, reveals his face under the hood and drops the poison. Is her name Luna? Because she's right here. Cruelly, he lifts the girl by her collar and she cries, helpless, letting out a scared, you sound. Let her go right now if you want to live. Someone screams, their voice cutting through the heavy tension. Raber laughs at their helplessness. You guys really don't get it, do you? He looks at Luna and mocks her. True, this kid is mute, right? Makes kidnapping way easier. Then tilts his head, curious. Actually, I've got a question. Raber stares at the child, looking down on her. I wonder if she stays quiet until the moment she passes away. Riley is in total shock at the situation while the demon finishes by saying, "Wanna find out?" "No!" Harkin loses it, completely overwhelmed by such cowardice. The demon Crad, with glowing eyes, cuts the confusion short. "Enough, Raber. From here on out, only the script matters." Raber sighs, annoyed that his fun was cut short. "Shh, fine, fine. I'll get straight to the point." The authoritative voice focuses on Riley, who widens her eyes in terror as she hears, "You, the lady with the white hair." The hooded figure points right at her. "I challenge you to a one-on-one. If you want the kid to live, follow me." Raber, keeping his cool, explains how he kidnapped the girl to use as bait to lure the hero into a duel. Indignant, the demon analyzes Crad's script and questions. "Hey, this Crad guy has zero talent for writing, right? Did you even check this? You sure it's okay?" Crad, with total disdain, examines the document and fires back. Ahem. "Look," instead of complaining to Lord Crad. He stares the demon down with a sharp look and drops the poison. "Shouldn't you avoid complaining to someone higher up in the hierarchy?" And he just starts laughing. The hooded one looks away, on the defensive. "Thanks for the understanding, but it's all to make sure the judgment is fair." He takes off his sunglasses, questioning his own ethics. Is this actually fair? Giving them special privileges for a one-on-one? Ha! If the earth heard that from the heavens, it'd scream. He mocks. Confused by the new rules popping out of nowhere, he asks, "Why did this perk show up without a warning?" Crad stares at Raber impatient. "So, are you gonna take it or not?" He accepts the advantage with a cynical grin. "The perk? I've got no reason to refuse." Tension explodes on the battlefield. Riley stays defensive, eyeing the silhouette of an opponent who isn't backing down. "You just want to fight me?" she questions, frustrated by her rival's speed. "I don't even know you. Do you know anything about me?" she thinks, shocked by the agility. The opponent laughs with disdain. "How could I not? You're the one who wiped the floor with those trolls, right?" He reflects on the creature's raw strength. Even without much intelligence, a pack like that is a nightmare for anyone. "And you took them all out by yourself, even the leader," the demon blurts out, incredulous. Raber flashes a predatory smile, fascinated. "How could I not be interested? Seriously." And posing his conditions, he commands, "No outside interference. I want a fair duel. Take her." The unexpected gesture leaves Riley in total panic. The demon hands the child over, keeping his word. Instinctively, she hugs Luna, relieved and terrified all at once. "Luna, are you hurt anywhere?" The little one lets out a desperate sob, shaking her head no, while tears stream down her face. Gasping, the fighter checks the girl and whispers, relieved, "Phew, so glad you're okay." But the worry hits hard again. "Her dad came with us, right?" she asks, trembling. Raber lays down the law. "Take her to her father. Then, come back to fight me." He mocks her hesitation. "You know running is useless, don't you?" Meticulous and sharp. The enemy leaves her full of uncertainty. He's not like the trolls. Can I actually handle this? Lowering his guard for a second, he feels the weight of isolation and the real danger surrounding him. Crad, cold as ever, asks, "Dominic, did you finish the broadcast?" Dominic confirms, "Yes, Lord Raber just said the final line." Dominic watches everything with sadism and a glint in his eyes. "Beautiful. Following the script perfectly. Oh, I love this." Exuding danger, he smiles and warns, "All right, time for trial number 2. Luna hugs her father, sobbing, and he holds her tight. "It's okay, Luna. Daddy's here." Harkin appears exhausted, his gaze lost, murmuring only, "Hero Riley." Riley manipulates a dark substance with precision. "Ink," she says. Her hands grip the weapon firmly, ready for whatever comes next. "You're gonna keep your promise, right? A clean duel, one-on-one?" she challenges, eyes locked on him. Lord Raber smiles sinisterly. "Coming from someone who used a kid as a hostage, I've got no room to talk, but relax. I'm not that much of a coward." The energy in the air hits the limit. "So, let's get started." "Too fast." She thinks in desperation. "He's so quick, I can't keep up." She focuses. "I'll have to react just by the sound." The impact is devastating, and she's left stunned by the insane speed of the attack. The mockery cuts through the silence. "What happened? Weren't you saying you were gonna kill me just a second ago?" With a manic grin, the guy lunges forward and taunts, "If you're so confident, come and get me." Riley watches the madness, worried. He's going all out from the start. He's not going to have any energy left for anything. And that's where it gets crazy, because she tries to track his acceleration. The pace is just ramping up. The truth is Raber's using the warm-up as a base to push his level to something superhuman. His movements turn into blurs of pure energy impossible to track. She feels the weight of the impact and, too late, realizes his reputation wasn't just hype. Turns out the rank 25 technique goes beyond speed. It's family forms earned through training, not some innate gift. Born from pure effort, Raber's mastery shows he didn't get anything handed to him. Creighton can't believe it. Dempsey roll? Is that for real? And that's where it gets good. The guy grins with sharp fangs, way too hyped about his perfect execution. Blue and orange energy collide, triggering an explosion that shatters everything nearby. The shocked kid can't hold back. What a beatdown. Riley is going toe-to-toe with his speed. Look at that. Then, someone questions the boy. Aren't you worried about the future? Pointing at the ruins, the voice critiques the manipulative tactics, using rewards to force absolute obedience. This judgment is a mistake. Frustrated, Crad snaps. If any demon overcomes this, it proves you never even considered their failure. Lord Crad hesitates, his face marked by the energy. And when that happens, what do I do? Mockingly, Dominic suggests, if you hate this position so much, why not just usurp the Demon King's throne? Bad-mouthing the Demon King in secret. Permission granted. Uses remaining. 8 out of 10. He responds with disdain, sure, why not? While the counter drops to 5 out of 10. Crad accepts the cold touch on his head, thinking, if I end up under someone else's command, it's because I was never fit for the throne. Smiling, the redhead ignores the doubts and claims he's calculated everything. Crad, trembling, looks at Riley's destruction and asks if that's still part of the plan. Indifferent. The young man stares at the carnage like it doesn't even touch him. Losing patience with the consequences, Crad lets out a, dang it, no. The count drops to 4 out of 10. Organic plate sprout on the Hama clan's skin, a natural armor as tough as steel. This genetics makes every member a born warrior ready for war. Racked in his own shadow, the young man laments, everyone, except me. Nature rejected him, leaving him stagnant while the others leveled up. The people's scorn marked his childhood for lacking that biological armor. Lord Frater, the imposing warrior in perfect armor, says, keep your head up, Raber. With or without armor, you're still a Hama clan warrior in every sense. Remembering the glory days, Frater honors Raber, his only pillar of support. A tear rolls down as he recalls the desire to honor his idol's trust. Clenching his fist, he decides, I won't be the stain on this clan. Impatient, he adjusts his bandages, and not waiting for armor that might never grow. I need my brother to recognize me now. Staring at the rock, he lets out a war cry, I can do this. Refining his stance, the young man feels every bandage as his own will. Because I am a warrior. He recalls the brutal training where he tore his own skin until calluses replaced the armor he never had. But time showed that, even while evolving, the gap between him and the clan only grew. And just like that, everything changed. His rise was like thunder, shattering the stigma and becoming the second strongest in the clan. Clenching his fist, he vents, unlike those guys who looked down on me, I learned something huge. Confident, he states, hard work at least never betrays you. Lunging forward, Raber lands a punch on his opponent's face and cheers, hit him dead on. The hype dies down when he realizes that hit should have shattered everything. Feels like I punched a wall, not a person. Tremors shake the ground, and the opponent, unfazed, asks, what on earth did she do? Riley comments, thoughtful, even without Troy here. Focused on his breathing, he whispers, inhale, exhale. Grateful for his allies' constant support. In the silence of the night, someone asks, remember when the master taught us about the nervous system? Nervous. Riley holds an object and confesses, I had something to ask you. Anything works, I just need to talk. The tension in the house is thick. She panics while confronting him about the dangerous technique, but he just mocks. The nervous system? I put it to good use, yeah, she stammers in disbelief. You used the nervous system. Excited, Dominic explains that this understanding allowed him to create the ink defense. Remember how that rock-headed guy kept tossing me around? Without this, I'd be totally broken, he says, ready to break down the spread stroke. And just like that, it clicks. He finally gets the depth of Blee's lessons in practice. Raver just widens his eyes, totally lost in the explanation. Huh, what's that? The kid details the maneuver. It wraps the spread stroke technique around the body to create an overcoat, then the right timing dissipates the damage. Letting out a long sigh, he relaxes. Phew, thought that would never end. The opponent observes, curious. From what I saw, you applied the spread stroke to your nervous system, right? Reflecting, the crowd ponders the danger of letting ink infiltrate his own structure. but concludes it's a versatile tool for any situation. Staring hard, Dominic analyzes every detail with skepticism, following along. I don't know about that, man. Raber flashes a predatory grin. I don't think it's that universal, you know. Breaking down the technique, he points out the flaws in the overcoat, warning that the reaction time is tight and the shield is fragile under certain conditions. Raising an eyebrow in mockery, he taunts, "Why don't you just activate it already?" But before he finishes, he takes a hit to the face. No one saw that coming. Feeling the impact, the opponent hears the explanation. The overcoat is only for critical emergencies and needs perfect timing. Blood drips onto the floor. The defense didn't hold everything, and the kid reflects coldly. Right. Can't nullify all the damage. Riley feels her skull vibrate. The pain is sharp and she murmurs, "A hit like that should have cracked my orbital bone." And that's what the damage reduced. Head spinning. Focus. And that's where it gets crazy. A dangerous glint appears in Raber's eyes, followed by a smile of pure malice under his hood. Focused, she ignores the ringing pain, ready to turn the next moment into a nightmare for her adversary. Shaking off the daze, she intercepts the attack with surgical precision, leaving the opponent in shock. No way. She caught it with both hands. Seeing the gloves move against his guard, the opponent wonders if that gear hides some secret ability. With a hostile look, she scoffs, "They're just regular gloves. Did you really think I was using cheap tricks like you?" It hits him and panic takes over. The gloves were a decoy. Firm in her stance, Riley ignores his desperation and fires a strike charged with energy. Is that it? Well, at this range, it's enough. Her arm muscles tense under the effort and energy crackles in the air like thunder about to explode. Confused, the adversary phrases, seeing her stop the movement. She stopped. Watching from afar, Dominic analyzes the technique. And here comes the feint. Raber already realized it's just a defensive move. Snapping out of it, the opponent realizes the feint and refocuses on the main objective. With a guttural shout, Riley unleashes the finishing blow, tearing through the air with absurd force. The ground beneath shatters, launching debris everywhere in an explosion of pure energy. This is where it gets good. Raber sneers. That hit landed, but you dispersed the impact. Born with that talent, huh? No wonder you get on my nerves so much. A cloud of dust rises, hiding the girl among the rubble and shattered walls. Wrapped in blue energy, the demon glares with contempt. You know what you guys have in common? You treat hard work like it's trash. Raber keeps smiling, making it clear his physical superiority is just the start of the humiliation. Peak speed is something trash like you can't reach. I'll drill that into your head. Frater's metallic face lights up. With yellow eyes, he declares, "Your effort is irrelevant against my absolute structure." Holding his stance, Raber recalls the past. "Keep your mouth shut." That's what I told Raber when he was forging his own calluses, just to keep him motivated. Sweating cold with wide eyes, Crod freezes. Lord Frater, how did he find us here? Dominic is losing it, but a firm voice cuts through the air. Don't panic. I'm the one who called him. Calmly, the guy downplays everything. It's nothing. We just made a promise. He looks over with a serene smile. Right, Frater? Frater keeps his tone steady to diffuse the tension. Yes, no need to be so tense. Frater confirms with a sharp glint in his eyes, reaffirming their previous commitment, just as we agreed. The yellow-eyed being bows to the pressure, clinging to the pact. I only ask that you guarantee my little brother's life. Distraught, Crad trembles at the revelation. What is even happening right now? Dust and debris rise from the rocks after the crash, leaving a heavy silence between the cliffs. The impact still echoes in his mind. Unsure if he's dazed from the beating or the words spoken before, memories flood his mind. His superior's instructions on how simplicity works best on certain people, wounded and bloodied. Riley smiles, delirious with submission as she murmurs, exhausted, "Master." And just like that, everything changed. The brutal truth finally clicks for Riley. With cuts on her face and a sinister look, she whispers to herself, "I think I get it all now."